Chapter 1. Sister Chumeng, that Qin Yi is really annoying. He always follows you. Your grandfather won't really let you marry him. Jing Chan said as she walked. I would rather die than marry him. I feel disgusted when I see him like that. Moreover, the Prince Charming in my heart is the longevity immortal venerable. I want to marry a man like him. When it comes to the words longevity immortal venerable, Chu Meng's eyes flashed with a trace of obsession. Xiao Chan, go to the big stone and change into clean clothes first. You are so careless that you fell into the water and got wet all over. It's autumn and it's cold. Don't catch a cold. I'll go there and watch for you. Hearing Chu Meng's words, Jing Chan shook her head speechlessly. There is no such thing as longevity immortal venerable. That's just a story made up by your grandfather. As if to confirm the woman's words, a gust of autumn wind blew over, sweeping away the withered leaves on the ground, revealing the yellow soil. He didn't know if it was a miracle, but the soil suddenly loosened and slowly lifted up a mound. A head came out of the soil, with a lazy voice as if just waking up. It's a new world. I don't know if those friends are still in the world. He muttered and pulled away the clods on his body. When he looked up, he saw a beautiful woman, hurrying to the back of the big stone, and then unbuttoning her wet shirt, ready to put on the clean clothes in her hand. Oh my God, what is she going to do? How can she take off her clothes in broad daylight? And in front of me, she's too open. Li Chongqing stared and saw that the woman took off her upper shirt and reached out to unbutton it. She didn't seem to notice the appearance of Li Chongqing at all. This girl, it's not good to do it in broad daylight. Li Chongqing kindly reminded her. Suddenly, the atmosphere was tense. The woman was dumbfounded, and then, rogue. With lightning speed, she put on a clean half-sleeved shirt and fled into the distance with her face covered. I won't scare the little girl, will I? Li Chongqing touched his nose with a helpless expression. He didn't expect to see such a scene when he opened his eyes. As an immortal cultivator, Li Chongqing felt very helpless. Other cultivators would either cultivate an immortal body and become immortal, or fail to pass the tribulation and die. However, he awkwardly failed 98 times. He did not become an immortal, nor did he die. This was his 99th time. Every time it failed, it had to sleep to repair the damage, just like animals hibernating. The last time I failed to transcend my tribulation was in the early 80s. I wake up at a different time every time. I don't even know what year it is now. Just as Li Chongqing was thinking, an angry voice rang out. Sister Chumeng, he's the one who peeped on me changing clothes. Li Chongqing raised his head and saw the woman from before leading another woman in her 20s over angrily. The woman's eyes were filled with killing intent and her face was as cold as ice. If looks could kill, Li Chongqing's heart would have been pierced by thousands of arrows. Wait a minute, who gave you the necklace on your neck? Li Chongqing saw that the necklace on her neck was very familiar. He suddenly remembered that he had given it to one of his followers. My grandfather gave it to me. What about it? Chu Ming said coldly. Is your grandfather called Chu Yaotian? You know my grandfather? Chu Meng's eyes were filled with doubt. Yes. Li Chongqing nodded. Every time he failed, he had to experience the world of mortals. Chu Yaotian was one of his followers in his previous life. The Chu clan should have moved here 30 years ago. Actually, the reason why the Chu clan settled down here is entirely because of me. Nonsense. When Chu Meng heard her grandfather's name, she was stunned for a moment. Now that she heard the other party say that 30 years ago, her grandfather looked like he was in his 20s, and that the Chu clan had settled down in the Nine Emperors Mountain because of him, it was obviously nonsense. The Chu clan settled here because of the benefactor of the Chu clan, who was also her idol. Bah, you're not only a hooligan, you're also a liar. See if I don't teach you a lesson. Chu Meng snorted coldly. She shot forward like an arrow and directly punched Li Chongqing's face. Voila! The force was not small. The friction between the fist and the air actually caused a sonic boom. No wonder he dared to speak up for the woman just now. He was actually a martial artist. However, Li Changxing's face did not show any signs of panic. Although the 9th cycle of divinity and devil would lose all their cultivation after each failure, the benefits were obvious. After each lightning tribulation, the body would be more than 10 times stronger than before. Li Changxing had just come back to life, and did not have any true yuan in his body. However, his body was unimaginably strong. Even bullets could not hurt him. Moreover, as an old monster who had lived for so many years, Li Changxing's battle experience was extremely rich. Although Chu Meng was young and strong, she was not qualified to hurt Li Changxing. Whoosh! Chu Meng's fist was very sharp. Li Changxing's body slightly tilted, dodging her fist while reaching out to grab her wrist. Chu Meng did not think that her opponent would be able to break her move. Her eyes were slightly surprised. However, she immediately turned around and kicked Li Changxing's chest. Facing Chu Meng's kick, Li Changxing did not dodge. Instead, he directly met her foot with a fist. Bang! A light sound rang out. Chu Meng pulled back and shook her foot. Her brows were slightly furrowed. She was not used to it. Li Changxing also took 2 steps back after exchanging blows with Chu Meng. He could not help but bitterly smile. He had just come back to life and did not have time to cultivate. He was actually kicked back by a girl. Humph! I thought you were an expert. So this is all you have. Being hit by Li Changxing on the sole of her foot still made her feel a little numb. However, seeing that Li Changxing was also kicked back 2 steps by her, her heart immediately filled with boundless confidence. Chapter 2. Chu Meng was born in a martial arts family. Although her waist and arms were as thin as a weak woman's, she could fight against 10 strong men. When Li Changxing dodged her punch, she thought that she had met an expert. But when she saw Li Changxing take 2 steps back, her confidence increased. After getting used to her numb feet, she once again raised her leg and attacked Li Changxing. This time, she clearly didn't underestimate Li Changxing. Her attacks were much more ferocious than before. Li Changxing didn't panic. Every time she attacked, he would use his past experience to resolve it. After all, the opponent was a woman, so it wasn't good to be too heavy-handed. But half a minute later, he saw that Chu Meng was still lively. Not only was she not tired, her attacks were like a storm. Li Changxing heard that she was the granddaughter of an old friend, so he deliberately went easy on her. But the other party didn't give up, which made him impatient. If you don't stop, then I won't be polite anymore, Li Changxing said. What answered him was another ferocious high kick. This time, Li Changxing grabbed his opponent's ankle with a backhand and pointed at her leg with a finger. Ah! Chu Meng cried out in alarm. She felt an intense pain coming from her leg when Li Changxing's finger touched her leg. It was as if she had been pricked by a needle. At the same time, Li Changxing loosened his grip, causing her to stumble back 5 steps. Then, with a plop, she sat on the ground. A gentle finger was like a steel needle. Isn't this the internal strength that Grandpa talked about? Chu Meng's face was filled with shock. Guoshu experts had the title of internal strength. They could split stones and looked incomparably ferocious, but they paled in comparison to internal strength experts. Internal strength experts could release their internal strength into the enemy's body and destroy the enemy's flesh and internal organs. Sometimes, a light punch would appear unharmed, but in reality, the internal organs would be shattered. In the early years of the Republic of China, there was a martial scholar who demonstrated the power of internal strength. He punched a willow tree. At that time, the willow tree didn't seem to have any reaction. But 3 days later, the entire willow tree withered. When the bark was peeled off, one would find that the trunk had been completely shattered. Just now, Li Changxing's light punch had made Chu Meng feel numb. She was certain that this was the legendary internal strength. Her beautiful face was filled with shock. She fell to the ground. She didn't care about how sorry she looked right now. She stared at Li Chongqing and asked, "You've cultivated internal strength?" Li Chongqing didn't answer Chu Meng's question. Instead, he asked, "Where is Chu Yaotian? Take me to see him." Chu Meng didn't know why this young man was looking for her grandpa, but she wasn't stupid. Since he was an internal strength expert, he might be her grandpa's enemy. So she bit her lips and shook her head. "I don't know. Even if you beat me to death, I won't tell you." "I'll beat you to death." Li Chongqing was completely speechless. Why was she talking like he was a bad guy? "Who dares to hurt my Chu Meng?" At this moment a loud shout came. A group of people walked over, led by a handsome young man. He ran over to help Chu Meng up, but Chu Meng gently moved her body to the side. She looked at the man with a bit of disgust. For Chu Meng's reaction, the man seemed to have expected it. He turned his head and stared at Li Chongqing fiercely. "How dare you? You even dare to touch my woman? Qin Yi, don't talk nonsense. I'm not your woman," Chu Meng said unhappily. But Qin Yi acted as if he didn't hear her. He said proudly, "Boy, kneel down and apologize to Chu Meng immediately. Otherwise I'll break your legs." Qin Yi was Chu Meng's pursuer. He always wanted to show off in front of Chu Meng, but he never had the chance. Now, he finally met a bold guy. He was very happy. Facing Qin Yi, Li Chongqing didn't have any extra expression. He just said, "Get out of my way. I have something to ask her." "What did you say?" Qin Yi doubted his ears. This guy not only dared to challenge him but also asked him to get out of his way. Did he eat a leopard's guts? Qin Yi was a very famous person in Qingzhou. Without waiting for Qin Yi to speak, the people behind him shouted, "Boy, you're blind. Talking to our young master Qin Yi like that. You're looking for death." "Our young master Qin Yi is a member of the school's taekwondo club. He can break 6 boards with 1 kick. Our young master Qin Yi broke at least 8 out of 10 legs. You're finished." Hearing the comments of the people behind him, Qin Yi became even more proud. To be able to become one of the 4 young masters of the school, he relied not only on his wealth but also on his fists. Many people looked at Li Chongqing with pity. Qin Yi was famous for taking revenge for the smallest grievance. Just because Li Chongqing said, "Get out of my way," his legs must be broken today. "Boy, did you hear what they said? Now kneel down and beg for mercy. Maybe I'll be happy and forgive you." Qin Yi looked at Li Chongqing with a sneer. He originally thought that after hearing his name, Li Chongqing would be so scared that his legs would tremble. However, he didn't expect Li Chongqing to only lightly open his mouth and spit out 2 words, "Scram." This time, not only did Qin Yi's face become ugly, but even the people around him were in an uproar. Knowing Qin Yi's identity, he still dares to talk nonsense. He doesn't know how high the sky is. It seems that this boy knows a few kung fu and thinks he's infallible. "Young Master Qin, you must teach him a lesson." Several of Qin Yi's friends shouted loudly. "Good." Qin Yi sneered. "See how I'll teach you a lesson." After saying that, Qin Yi directly rushed up with his fist. He was a black belt in Taekwondo. Especially in front of Chu Meng, he raised his legs high. Each of his fists was vigorous and powerful, dazzling the onlookers. However, Li Chongqing couldn't help but shake his head. After dodging 3 consecutive kicks, he directly kicked his ankle. Plop! Qin Yi's body was unstable and fell to the ground. At the same time, Li Chongqing took a step forward and stepped on his face. He said coldly, "Now can you get out of my way?" Chapter 3. Young Master Qin Lost. The group of hooting youths all shut their mouth. Originally, they were waiting for Li Chongqing to be beaten up by Qin Yi, but now Li Chongqing kicked Qin Yi to the ground. Most importantly, This young master of the Qin family had his face stepped on by someone. This was too humiliating. No wonder this guy is so arrogant. Turns out that he has real martial arts. Not all of the people present were Qin Yi's friends. Most of them were students in school and didn't have a good impression of Qin Yi. I'm young Master Qin. How dare you treat me like this? My father won't let you go. Qin Yi stared at him with red eyes. He couldn't wait to tear this abominable guy into pieces. However, he couldn't because his face was rubbing against the soles of Qin Yi's shoes. On the other side was the ground covered with sand and stones. Humiliation, shame, anger, hatred. It's hard to imagine a person with so many emotions in his eyes at the same time. At this moment Qin Yi did it. What a waste! Li Changxing kicked Qin Yi to the side. Young Master Qin covered his face and got up from the ground. When he saw the screen of his phone was broken into a spider web, he had to give up the idea of calling people. He stared at Li Changxing fiercely. My father is at the foot of the mountain. Wait for me if you dare. After that, he didn't wait for Li Changxing to speak and ran down the mountain. After running for a while, he saw that Li Changxing didn't chase after him. He breathed a sigh of relief and continued to run down the mountain. Qin Yi's face was full of blood. He ran down the mountain panting. He didn't know how many times he fell. There was a huge manor at the foot of the mountain. It was jokingly called Chu Mansion by the people of Qingzhou. It was the residence of Chu Yaotian, the big boss of Chuzhou City. At this moment, in the hall of Chu Mansion, two men were sitting opposite each other. One was in his 60s. He looked very elegant. He was the famous Chu Yaotian in Qingzhou. Opposite him was a middle-aged man. He sat there and gave people a sense of momentum. Behind the middle-aged man stood a row of imposing bodyguards. At first glance, one could tell that he was the kind of person who had real strength and not those who were just for show. Qin Yi ran all the way to the gate of the manor. Two brawny men in suits were standing guard at the entrance. After seeing Qin Yi, he was surprised. Young master, what's wrong? Did he fall from the mountain? Cut off your Kinghead. Qin Yi was angry at the moment, and he didn't have a good face for his own bodyguard. He cursed loudly and asked, Is my father inside? Take me to him. The bodyguard looked hesitant. Young master, Master Qin is discussing something with Elder Chu. If you rush in like this, Master Qin will not be happy. Pa! It was a crisp slap to the face. I told you to lead the way. Don't you understand? The brawny man was slapped in the face, but his expression became even more respectful. He lowered his head and replied, Yes. He opened the door, walked through a corridor, and arrived at the top of the hall. When Qin Yi saw his father, his tears flowed out and he said, Dad, you must avenge your son. Qin Hao turned his head and was stunned by his son's miserable appearance. Then he said calmly, Do you know the rules? Why don't you greet Elder Chu? Qin Yi wiped his tears and said, Grandpa Chu, hello? What's the matter? Chu Yaotian's eyes were also a little surprised, and he smiled. He also knew that Qin Yi pursued his granddaughter, but Qin Yi was Qin Hao's son. How could he be beaten by someone? What the hell is going on? Qin Hao couldn't help but feel angry. Just now, he and Chu Yaotian praised his son. He didn't expect his son to appear in such an image in a twinkling of an eye. Someone bullied Chu Meng on the mountain. I helped Chu Meng. As a result, the guy was too cruel, Qin Yi cried with snot and tears. After listening, Qin Hao's face was completely gloomy. What a waste! Qin Hao snorted coldly. However, when he heard that the other party was trying to protect Chu Meng, his face became slightly better. He said to a subordinate behind him, Su Ke go. You and the young master go up the mountain and see. The other party dared to beat my son, Qin Hao. After saying that, the subordinate behind him answered and went out. A trace of pride flashed across Qin Yi's face. He was very clear about the strength of his father's subordinates. "Then, Dad, I'll go first." As he spoke, he led the bodyguard outside aggressively, determined to avenge his humiliation. After Qin Yi left, Qin Hao looked at Chu Yaotian apologetically. "Elder Chu, I'm sorry." Chu Yaotian chuckled, picked up the teacup, and took a sip. "It's okay, but can your bodyguard go alone? Mount Jiuhua is my territory. Do you want me to send a few more people to take a look?" Qin Hao hurriedly shook his head. "No, my bodyguard used to be a soldier king. He helped me solve a lot of problems and has never failed. Elder Chu, you can rest assured that there is no one in Qingzhou that he can't handle." "Is that so?" Chu Yaotian drank the tea in the cup, but the corner of his mouth showed a bit of disdain. Chapter 4. On the top of the mountain, the students looked at Li Chongqing with fear. This guy is too cruel. He even dared to hit Qin Yi. But at the same time there was pity. Qin Yi has already gone to get reinforcements. There will be a good show to watch. Qin Yi's father is a famous big shot in Qingzhou. Only my grandpa can suppress him. You hit his son. Listen to me, hurry up and run. Otherwise you will suffer, Chu Ming said coldly. She was still very wary of Li Chongqing. This guy who asked for her grandpa by name, who knows if he is an enemy of her family. I don't care about the Qin family. I just want to know when you will take me to see your grandpa. Li Chongqing didn't care at all. You, Chu Meng snorted. You have to get through this first. Chu Meng didn't know why, but she always felt that Li Chongqing didn't seem like a bad guy. 20 minutes later, Qin Yi finally arrived. He led Su Ke and rushed over. He pointed at Li Chongqing and shouted, "That's him, Su Quebec, hurry up and take him down." A black figure rushed over, bringing with it a strong gust of wind. He swung his fist towards Li Chongqing's neck. Seeing the black figure rushing out, many people exclaimed, "Su Ke, he is Su Quebec, Master Qin's #1 general, known as the Invincible Iron Fist. This guy is in trouble." Chu Meng turned her head to the side. She knew that Su Ke's strength was absolutely terrifying. He once killed a cow with one punch. Although Li Chongqing was also very strong, in Chu Meng's opinion, he was definitely not Su Ke's opponent. At this time, Su Ke's fist had already reached Li Chongqing's neck. Li Chongqing had a faint smile on his face. He just leaned sideways and raised his arm, grabbed the opponent's fist, and twisted it down. At the same time, he raised his foot and kicked the figure's lower abdomen. These movements were done in one breath, completely integrated into his blood. When Su Ke reacted, he had already taken a solid kick and flew backward. When he landed on the ground, he gasped. It could be seen that Li Chongqing's wrist had been broken, revealing the eerie white bone. As Qin Hao's #1 bodyguard, Su Ke's strength was unquestionable. But within a few seconds, he had been defeated. He stared at Li Chongqing, his eyes were filled with deep fear. From the moment Li Chongqing made his move to the moment he was sent flying, everything seemed so natural. Su Ke knew how terrifying this was. Only the world's top fighters could do it so casually. But he was only in his 20s. Su Ke actually lost. Everyone's jaws dropped to the ground in shock. Qin Yi was also dumbfounded. Su Ke was the #1 fighter in Qingzhou, his father's most valued general. This hatred must be avenged. I'll go find my father again. As a result, the two men who had come in a threatening manner were now covered in dirt and grime as they ran down the mountain in a sorry state. This time, when they stood in the hall again, Qin Hao's face had turned green. He had boasted that there was nothing that Su Ke couldn't handle. In the blink of an eye, he was slapped in the face. But other than anger, he was even more shocked. Didn't you say that the opponent wasn't very old? Even Su Ke wasn't his opponent? Qin Yi walked in front of his father with a face full of humiliation. That beggar was too strong. It was as if he had just crawled out of the ground. He wasn't very tall, but I didn't think that even Su Ke wasn't his opponent. It seems that I have to go there personally. Although he had lost face, Qin Hao couldn't take this lying down. Otherwise, if word got out in the future, he wouldn't be able to convince the people in Qingzhou. However, they didn't notice the expression on Chu Yaotian's face when Qin Yi said the words, crawled out of the ground. You're saying that he was covered in rags, as if he had just been dug out of the ground? Did he look very ordinary, as if he didn't care about anything in his eyes? Chu Yaotian blurted out. Qin Yi thought for a moment and said, That's true. Do you know him, Grandpa Chu? Chu Yaotian suddenly stood up from the sofa and said to Qin Hao, do you know why my Chu family spent such a high price to buy such a remote place like the Nine Emperors Mountain and build a manor here? Qin Hao didn't know why Chu Yaotian suddenly said this. Although he was anxious to take revenge, he still replied, I don't know. The reason why I built this Chu manor here is because of the beggar you're talking about. Hearing Chu Yaotian's words, Qin Hao's face was shocked. He had a bad premonition in his heart. Is he one of your people, Mr. Chu? When he said this, he couldn't help but glare at Qin Yi and thought, this thing can't do anything right. Originally, Chu Yaotian didn't agree with him and Chu Yaotian, but now he offended Chu Yaotian's people. He's not one of my people. Chu Yaotian shook his head. Qin Hao just breathed a sigh of relief. Chu Yaotian continued, I'm one of his people. Who is he? Qin Hao blurted out. He's someone you can't afford to offend. Chu Yaotian's expression suddenly became fierce. This is the first time that Qin Hao has seen Chu Yaotian's expression since he knew Chu Yaotian for so many years. Even though he has now controlled most of the industries in Qingzhou, in the face of the man known as the Emperor of Qingzhou, he still has some fear in his heart. Qin Hao, I warn you, don't try to avenge your son, otherwise you will be my enemy, Chu Yaotian, tomorrow we will fight. Chu Yaotian's words made Qin Yi's hand tremble. Although his Qin family is now in Qingzhou, if he provokes the Chu family, he will die without a burial place in minute. Mr. Chu, I was wrong. If you know you're wrong, then get out of here. Chu Yaotian finished and strode out of the hall. It seems that he can't wait. Qin Hao couldn't help but clench his fist. It's shameful for the big boss of Qingzhou to be reprimanded like this. Dad, what should we do? Am I beaten for nothing? Qin Yi was a little anxious. You deserve to be beaten to death. Qin Hao turned and said, Let's go back to Qingzhou. At this time, on the top of the Nine Emperors Mountain, everyone has been waiting since Qin Yi left. After waiting for more than 10 minutes, a group of people came up the mountain path. But the leader was not Qin Hao and his son. Chu Meng, isn't that your grandfather? Jing Chan whispered. Grandfather? Why are you here? Chu Yaotian was about to greet him, but he didn't pay attention to her at all. Instead, he walked directly to Li Chongqing and said in a trembling voice, Mr. Li, it's really you, you're really back? Chu Yaotian stared fixedly at Li Chongqing. There was excitement, shock, surprise, and respect in his eyes. His expression made the people around him confused. In the face of the excited Chu Yaotian, Li Chongqing just smiled and nodded. I didn't expect you to have been guarding this Nine Emperors Mountain. It's hard work. It's hard work. These 3 words seemed to have an extraordinary magic power, which made Chu Yaotian burst into tears in an instant. Let's go to your house and talk. There are many people on this mountain. Hearing Li Chongqing's words, Chu Yaotian hurriedly wiped his tears and smiled. The old man in his 60s was like an 8 or 9-year-old child at this moment. Okay. He followed Li Chongqing and walked down the mountain. When Chu Meng and others reacted, the two had already gone far. Chapter 5. It's 2016 now. I've been sleeping for 30 years. Inside the Chu family's villa, Li Chongqing sighed as he sat on the sofa. As for Chu Yaotian, he stood there respectfully with his back bent. He looked like an old servant. If this scene was seen by the big shots in the upper-class circle of Qingzhou, they would definitely be scared out of their wits. Chu Yaotian, who was like a retired emperor, respectfully addressed him as Elder Chu. But now, he was actually willing to be a servant to a young man. Benefactor, you really came back. 30 years ago, you made all your followers wait at the foot of the mountain, and then completely disappeared from the world. When we rushed to the top of the mountain, we only saw the letter you left behind, saying that you would come back one day. I've been waiting for all these years, and finally, this day has come. Chu Yaotian's voice was incoherent due to his excitement. He had waited here for 30 years. He had originally thought that Li Chongqing had encountered some kind of accident, and that the letter back then was just to comfort his followers. He did not expect that Li Chongqing would actually return. Li Chongqing smiled. My body's condition is rather strange. Every once in a while I have to experience a life and death situation. But you, on the other hand, have been waiting at the foot of this mountain for more than 30 years. If it weren't for Benefactor, how could I, Chu Yaotian, be where I am today? My life was given by Benefactor. Even if Benefactor wants me to die, I won't hesitate. At this point, Chu Yaotian finally couldn't help but cry. 30 years ago, Li Chongqing's disappearance had made all his followers cry. 30 years later, the world had changed, and Li Chongqing had returned. Benefactor, it's been more than 30 years, but your appearance hasn't changed at all. If Heavenly King Su and the others knew that you had returned, they would definitely rush here as fast as they could. Chu Yaotian sighed. Oh right, how are little Su and the others now? In his previous life, Li Chongqing had gathered a group of followers who accompanied him on his expeditions and created many glorious achievements. Heavenly King Su is now Huaxia's famous business emperor, and the others have also achieved a lot. All these years, they have been very low-key, and only those who have reached that level will know how powerful they are. It's good to keep a low profile. Li Chongqing smiled faintly. You've offended a lot of people when you went crazy with me back then. It's time to take a break. By the way, how's little eunuch Gu now? Li Chongqing couldn't help but smile as he recalled the most arrogant fellow by his side back then. Hearing Li Chongqing mention Gu Mangong, Chu Yaotian had a strange expression on his face. Gu Mangong is amazing now. Other than the few years when you disappeared, he still restrained himself a little. Later on, he almost pierced a hole in the sky. Now, he's running to the Nanyang region to do business. There, the words Gu Mangong are a special pass. I heard that the royal families of several small countries are fighting to marry their princesses to him. Li Chongqing couldn't help but laugh when he heard this. That subordinate was born to be the Lord of Havoc in the Heavenly Palace. Only he could suppress him. Gu Mangong was the best among your followers back then, but he was too arrogant. Without Benefactor by his side to remind him, he would inevitably suffer. What do you mean? Li Chongqing could hear the meaning behind Chu Yaotian's words. I heard that Gu Mangong was too arrogant in the Nanyang region and offended many reclusive big families. Some time ago, I received news that many forces have joined forces to deal with him. Although Gu Mangong is powerful, he's not good at scheming. I'm afraid he will suffer. He doesn't listen to us. You know that he only listens to you. Gu Mangong may seem reckless, but he's actually smarter than any of you. It's not that easy to deal with him. I'm not worried. Furthermore, I don't plan to meet them this time. Why? You should understand how loyal they are to you. As long as you raise your arm, they will give up their family business and immediately gather under you, no matter how big it is. Li Chongqing shook his head gently. My life is full of twists and turns. I was ignorant before, but I was also brilliant and reckless. Now that this is my last life, I don't want to suffer anymore. At this point, he couldn't help but let out a long sigh. He had lived for too long and had already seen through many things. Benefactor. Seeing that Li Chongqing was deep in thought, Chu Yaotian hesitated for a moment before saying, "As you expected, Shao Ji betrayed you in the end. In the 9th year after you disappeared, his swordsmanship was completed and he snatched the sword you left behind. After Gu Mangong heard the news, he went to reason with him. In the end, he had one of his fingers chopped off. He publicly announced that disciples don't have to be inferior to their masters. The Chongqing sect from back then has now been renamed the Xianyuan sect. All the teachings you left behind have been erased by him. Even your Chongqing memorial tablet has been removed from the altar." At this point, Chu Yaotian was a little indignant. "Shao Ji." Li Chongqing couldn't help but think of that young but arrogant face. That was a disciple he had taken in his previous life. He had an innate sword body and had unparalleled talent in swordsmanship. However, he was a lone wolf in his bones and had never taken anyone in the world seriously. Li Chongqing knew that he was also unconvinced of his master. As expected, after Li Chongqing had fallen into a deep slumber, he had betrayed his master and wanted to establish his own orthodoxy to surpass his master, Li Chongqing. Having pride is his strength, and establishing his own orthodoxy isn't wrong either. However, he shouldn't have betrayed his master and denied everything about me. Without me, he wouldn't have become who he is. Furthermore, that treasured sword is my life item. It's very important to me." He snatched it away forcefully. "It seems that he really doesn't take me, his master, seriously." Li Chongqing let out a long sigh. His only disciple still held a very important position in his heart. When he first saw him, he actually knew that with his personality, this day would eventually come. However, because he cherished talent, he still chose to take him as his disciple. He wanted to use the favor of teaching him, but in the end, he still failed. A disciple doesn't need to be inferior to his master? Li Chongqing smiled and shook his head. Back then, Ji Lushui had just stepped into the threshold of martial art. How could he know how strong his master was? Where is Ji Lushui now? That sword is very important to me. I have to get it back. Moreover, I want him to understand that he, as a disciple, will never be inferior to his master. Hearing Li Chongqing's words, Chu Yaotian hurriedly replied, "He changed the name of your Chongqing sect to Xianyuan sect. Later, he swept through all the major sects and finally became the sword god. After that, he disappeared from the eyes of the world together with the Xianyuan sect. However, I have been tracking down news about him all these years. The last time he appeared was at Qingzhou University. It seemed that he was looking for something. The surname Ji is the surname of the ancient Yellow Emperor Xianyuan. Ji Lushui is an orphan. He has always thought that he is the descendant of the Yellow Emperor Xianyuan. He should be searching for the mystery of his origin. Since the last time he appeared was at Qingzhou University, then I will go to Qingzhou University to take a look. Help me arrange it." After Li Chongqing finished speaking, Chu Yaotian immediately nodded. "The principal of Qingzhou University is my student. I will go and arrange it." Chapter 6. I'll get someone to do it now. Chu Yaotian didn't dare to neglect Li Chongqing's matter. He took out his phone and called his student, who was the principal of the university. After hanging up, he immediately said to Li Chongqing, "Benefactor, it will be done soon. Now you have two identities to choose from. One is to enter the campus as a coach, and the other is to enter as a student. Which one do you think is better?" Hearing Chu Yaotian's words, Li Chongqing thought for a moment. "Both identities are good. Then I'll take care of both." Chu Yaotian was stunned for a moment, then nodded. "Okay, I'll tell him immediately." After leaving the Chu villa, Li Chongqing came to a valley at the foot of the Nine Emperor Mountain. When Li Chongqing woke up, he found that the spiritual energy in the world was much more barren than before. He had just woken up and his body was empty. He urgently needed to increase his strength. The Chu Villa wasn't a place where wind and water gathered. The spiritual energy flowed faster and thinner, and it was very slow for him to recover his strength. After exploring along the way, he found that this valley was a place where spiritual energy gathered. The spiritual energy in this valley was the densest within a radius of dozens of miles. Li Changxing walked into the valley, sat down on a piece of rock, and began to absorb the spiritual energy to cultivate. Li Changxing's body was empty, but because his body had been remodeled, it was equivalent to the bone-forging realm of the 9 stages of immortal cultivation. As long as he absorbed the spiritual energy in the world and connected the meridians in his body, the spiritual energy would be able to circulate through his body and he would be able to enter the qi refining realm. The immortal cultivation realm was divided into the bone-forging realm, qi refining realm, Xiantian realm, diamond realm, and Xian finger realm. The indestructible body of gods and devils to the 9th cycle was equivalent to the Xian finger realm of the immortal cultivation realm. But this time, Li Changxing had a feeling that when he cultivated to the 9th cycle of nirvana rebirth, there would be different changes. But he still couldn't tell what the changes were. When Master taught me this set of martial arts, he once said that 9 by 9 will return to 1, and extreme changes will occur. This is the 99th time. I wonder what kind of changes will occur when I reach the peak of this martial arts? Li Changxing muttered to himself as he began to circulate the 9 revolutions of the celestial devil with all his might. The surrounding heaven and earth spirit qi continuously flowed into his body. One could see that the air around him was flowing into gusts of wind. That was the trajectory of the qi of heaven and earth. There was no sun or moon in the mountain, so one could not feel the passage of time while cultivating. When Li Changxing opened his eyes, it was already the next morning. He stood up and walked towards the Chu family's villa again. A few minutes after he left, the blue stone he was sitting on cracked like a spider web and finally turned into countless broken stones. Chu Meng had already gone to school by the time he returned to the Chu villa. Chu Yaotian handed a folder to Li Changxing. The folder contained a bank card, a new ID card, and Qingzhou University's acceptance letter. Chu Yaotian told Li Changxing that his student wouldn't be at school for the next few days, but Li Changxing would be able to go to school directly because everything had been arranged. Chu Yaotian drove Li Changxing to school. Li Changxing asked him to leave first while he went to handle the admission procedures. Then, he took the letter of appointment that Chu Yaotian had given him and went to look for the relevant teachers. "Please come in." When Li Changxing knocked on the door, a woman's voice came from inside. He opened the door and walked in. He saw a young woman in uniform with her head lowered as she checked a pile of documents on the desk. The woman was about 25 or 26 years old. She was very beautiful and made people's eyes light up. When she signed her name on a document, she raised her head. "What can I do for you, student?" Li Changxing looked about 18 or 19 years old, so she instinctively thought that he was a student of the school. "Excuse me, are you teacher Su Jing?" Li Changxing asked the guard when he came in. The guard told him that this should be the office. "That's right." Su Jing nodded. "That's right." Li Changxing handed the letter of appointment to Su Jing and said, "I'm the school's newly hired combat coach. My name is Li Changxing." Li Changxing? Su Jing frowned. She was in charge of the school's combat team. Recently, because they were going to participate in a national high school combat competition, the combat coaches in the school were not up to the job, so they had to hire a coach from outside. But she never thought that the person they hired would be a young kid. "Are you kidding me? Although the fighting coaches in the school are not competent for this job, they have at least won some championship. But this young boy doesn't look like a fighting expert at all." Su Jing was speechless. This combat competition was very important to the members of Qingzhou University's combat team. The school hiring such a person, was this not a joke? Immediately, Su Jing called the relevant person in charge of the school. Let's not talk about whether the members of the combat team would accept a brat as their coach. Even if it was Su Jing herself who had a responsible attitude towards her students, she would definitely not allow such an incompetent person to mislead her students. When the call connected, the person in charge told Su Jing that the coach was chosen by the school's leaders and they had no right to change it. So he got in through the back door. After Su Jing hung up the phone, she looked at Li Chongqing with an unfriendly face. She was in charge of the combat team. She was an expert martial arts enthusiast. From her point of view, Li Chongqing did not look like someone who knew martial arts. He stood there loosely, without any muscles on his body. Especially his expression, he did not have the fierce temperament that a martial arts practitioner should have. Originally, it was Su Jing's idea to hire a coach from outside, because although there were a few combat coaches in the school who had some skills, they were unable to lead the combat team to achieve excellent results in the upcoming national competition. But she never thought that they would hire such a young kid. I don't know how you got the position of coach through your connections, but I want to tell you that the coach we want is someone who truly has exquisite combat skills, someone who can improve the quality of our combat team, and not someone who is just there to make up the numbers and get paid. Now I'll give you two choices. 1. Immediately turn around and leave, and let someone who is truly capable come in. 2. That is to accept my assessment and prove that you have the ability to be a combat coach. Assessment? Li Chongqing smiled. Is it to beat you? As he said that, he glanced at Su Jing with interest. Letting him spar with a girl, it would be a bit of a bully. Lecture. Su Jing snorted coldly. Of course it's not me. Our school has a PE teacher who retired from the special forces. I'll let him assess you. As she said that, she dialed another number. After the call, she said to Li Chongqing, he said that he's waiting for us in the training room. I want to remind you that it's not too late to regret now. Our PE teacher has learned killing skills. Don't ask for trouble when the time comes. Don't worry. Li Chongqing smiled confidently. It's not certain who will be the one to suffer. Originally, she kindly reminded Li Chongqing, but after seeing Li Chongqing's expression, she could not help but snort softly. She thought to herself, a guy who came to school to be a combat coach through his connections actually dares to accept my assessment. Just wait to be taught a lesson later. Chapter 7. Thinking of this, Su Jing sneered and ignored Li Chongqing. She pushed open the office door and walked out. Just now, she had only thought that Li Chongqing was still young and that if her colleague were to make a move, he would definitely be beaten black and blue. But thinking about it from another perspective, it was this guy who didn't know what was good for him and wanted to be a combat coach. If she didn't teach him a lesson, who knew how he would mislead people just because he had connections? So she didn't try to persuade Li Chongqing. Instead, she was looking forward to seeing Li Chongqing being taught a lesson. Li Chongqing followed Su Jing into the elevator and arrived at the first floor of the building. After exiting the elevator, Su Jing pointed at the end of the corridor and said, "The door at the end of the corridor is the training room. I'll go get a glass of water. You go first." Li Chongqing nodded and walked to the end. There was indeed a door with the words, "Training Room," written on it. He pushed open the door and saw a middle-aged man in sportswear hitting a sandbag. When he heard the voice, he turned around. When he saw that it was a young man, his face revealed a hint of surprise. "You're the one who applied to be the coach of the combat team?" No wonder he asked that. Li Chongqing looked very young and didn't look like someone who had learned martial arts. "The school wanted me to train the combat team, but I've been too busy lately, so I thought of hiring a coach. I didn't expect the school to be so stupid as to send a kid like you. No wonder Su Jing asked me to test you." Wang Jian shook his head and said, "You can't do it. Stop hitting and go back. You're not up to the job." After saying that, he ignored Li Chongqing and went to hit the sandbag. How do you know I can't do it if you haven't beaten me? In my opinion, you're the one who can't do it, Li Chongqing said calmly. If you don't want to test me, then I'll take it that I've passed. I'll be taking over soon. What? Wang Jian stopped what he was doing and frowned. Kid, you really want me to test you? Don't regret it. I'm afraid you're the one who will regret it. Li Chongqing shook his head. Interesting. Let's begin then. Wang Jian suddenly took a big stride forward, his fist carrying a strong wind, fast and ruthless, directly hitting Li Chongqing's chest. Originally, Wang Jian had planned to punch Li Chongqing in the face, but considering Li Chongqing's weak body, he was afraid that he would break his nose. Therefore, he decided to punch his chest instead. Facing Wang Jian's sudden attack, Li Chongqing did not panic. Instead, he gently turned around and dodged the attack. At the same time, he chopped Wang Jian's arm with his hand. Crack! Wang Jian felt as if he had been struck by a giant axe. He quickly retreated and held his arm as he sucked in a breath of cold air. Good lad, looks like I underestimated you just now. As soon as he finished speaking, he once again rushed towards Li Chongqing. This time, he showed no mercy, and his power was several times stronger than before. This time, Li Chongqing didn't evade and directly went forward. Bang! Their fists collided. Wang Jian felt as if he had punched a steel plate. He immediately retreated and shook his hand. His cheeks twitched twice, and it was obvious that he was in pain. This time, Li Chongqing didn't wait for Wang Jian to recover and took the initiative to attack. He bent his body and took a step forward. His body was like a bow and his fist was like an arrow. Boom! That punch actually caused a sonic boom in the air. In his previous life, Li Chongqing was a mighty primordial spirit realm expert. He could blow up a tank with a punch, and even missiles couldn't break through his physical defense. Although he hadn't been cultivating for long after his rebirth, his reaction speed and physical strength were already comparable to a master realm expert. That was the difference in the nature of the cultivation method. Li Chongqing's cultivation method was equivalent to a sharp knife, while others were equivalent to holding a wooden stick. With the same strength, a wooden stick would at most break a few bones, but a knife would take away a person's life. Li Chongqing's fist carried a strong wind, and Wang Jian's face suddenly changed. He already knew that Li Chongqing wasn't an ordinary person after 2 exchanges. He didn't dare to take it head-on. He hurriedly went behind a sandbag and pushed it, trying to cushion Li Chongqing's attack. Unexpectedly, facing the oncoming sandbag, Li Chongqing's entire body suddenly leaped up, and with the momentum, he threw a punch. That punch was extremely powerful, and it landed directly on the sandbag. Bang! The entire room seemed to have been struck by thunder. That sandbag, which was as tall as a person, exploded under Li Chongqing's punch. Countless iron sands splattered everywhere. Wang Jian had just breathed a sigh of relief, but he didn't expect Li Chongqing's punch to be so powerful that it could explode the sandbag. His body was hit by the iron sand coming at him, and he took a few steps back. When he finally regained his balance, he saw that there were several bloody marks on his face from the iron sand. Some of them were even bleeding. Bada! Su Jing, who just came in with a glass of water, was stunned when she opened the door. The glass in her hand fell to the ground. You actually exploded the sandbag? Su Jing just happened to witness the scene of Li Chongqing exploding the sandbag. She was shocked beyond words. I'm really sorry for destroying the school property, Li Chongqing said lightly. On the other side, Wang Jian couldn't care less about the wounds on his face. He clapped his hands and said, Good, good, I met a real expert today. Wang Jian found some tissue paper and wiped the blood on his face. He looked at Li Chongqing with admiration. Now, did I pass the test? Li Chongqing smiled at Su Jing. Yes, you did. Su Jing was already dumbfounded at the moment. She answered subconsciously. Wang Jian had already walked over excitedly. My friend, was your last move the bursting fist of the Xing Yi fist? Back in the day, the Xing Yi fist grandmaster was half a step away from conquering the world with the bursting fist. It was said that the most powerful move was to knock down a wall with one punch. The move you just used to explode the sandbag is not inferior to the grandmaster level. It was no wonder that Wang Jian was so excited. There were many masters in the early years of the Republic of China, but in modern times, with the rise of firearms, Kung Fu had long declined. Even internal force warriors were like pandas, let alone masters of the Grandmaster realm. You can say that. Li Chongqing smiled. His strength was indeed similar to a Grandmaster, but with the strength of his immortal cultivation, there were no Grandmasters who could defeat him. Since you can defeat me, you are qualified to teach the combat team. With your guidance, the combat team will definitely achieve excellent results in the national tournament. Wang Jian was very optimistic about Li Chongqing. You flatter me, you flatter me. Li Chongqing couldn't stand his enthusiasm. May I know when I can meet my students? Li Chongqing hurriedly changed the topic. He was afraid that Wang Jian would ask him to pay for the sandbag. He was a poor man now. You can do it now. You are such a good coach, of course they have to meet you as soon as possible. But these guys are like wild horses, not easy to tame. You have to be mentally prepared. Wang Jian said. Li Chongqing looked too young after all. It would be difficult for them to accept a guy who looked younger than them to teach them martial arts. Chapter 8. Qingzhou University's combat team was currently undergoing arduous training. There were only 3 members of the combat team. The 3 of them were selected from the tens of thousands of students in the school through a competition. They were going to represent Qingzhou University in the National University Combat Competition. The 3 of them were definitely strong. Each of them had a strong physique and combat skills. One of them was even the champion of the World Championship. This was also the reason why they had to hire coaches from outside the school. This was because the previous combat coach was no match for these 3 students at all. Su Jing had seen Li Chongqing's strength, so naturally, she no longer had any doubts. However, on the way there, she still reminded Li Chongqing that he must listen to her when he was there. She would think of a way to explain things to the students so that there wouldn't be any conflict. The 2 of them quickly arrived at the school's gymnasium. This was where the combat team was training. When Li Chongqing and Su Jing came in, they saw that other sports teams were also training here. There was a basketball team, a shot put team, a baseball team, and so on. Su Jing was a famous beauty in the school. When Li Chongqing walked together with her, they immediately attracted the attention of many people. Everyone was guessing who this unfashionable young man was and how he could walk together with the famous Su Jing. Li Chongqing really didn't have time to buy clothes. He was still wearing his old sportswear that Chu Yaotian had saved from 30 years ago. Clothes from the 80s, even if they were the most fashionable at that time, in the eyes of the young people of the new era, they were still unfashionable. Li Chongqing and Su Jing walked into the combat team's training room and saw 3 figures doing push-up. What surprised Li Chongqing was that there was actually a woman among them. As if sensing Li Chongqing's doubts, Su Jing explained, "Her name is Jin Wenwen. Although she looks like a delicate girl, she was born in a martial arts family. During the preliminaries, she defeated a 1.9-meter karate master with one hand." As he spoke, he pointed to the other 2. The cool and handsome one is called Wang Dongxing. He's a rich second-generation heir. Everyone calls him Wang Xiao. He loves martial arts and was once the champion of the city's championship. The other burly guy is called Wei Hu. He's also from a martial arts family. He used to learn Bajiquan. It's said that ever since he was young, he used to hit trees with his body every day to practice martial arts. So far, he's broken 8 trees. As she spoke, Su Jing looked at Li Chongqing playfully. The meaning in her eyes was obvious. Don't look at how you broke the sandbag with one punch. You may not be able to tame these 3 guys. Walking in, Su Jing clapped her hands. Everyone, please stop for a moment. Let me introduce you. This is Mr. Li Chongqing. He is also the new coach of our combat team. Hearing Su Jing's words, the 3 of them gathered around. You're the new coach? Seeing that Li Chongqing was so young, the 3 of them had doubts in their eyes. Especially Jin Wenwen, who was wearing a martial arts suit. She took a step forward and cupped her hands. If you want to be our coach, you have to show me what you're capable of first. Please. The other party actually wanted to fight with Li Chongqing, the coach, as soon as they met. She got into a fighting stance. Her eyes were very sharp. Jin Wenwen, how can you be so rude to Coach Li? Su Jing pretended to reprimand her. But then she walked to Jin Wenwen's side and whispered, This Coach Li's strength is not ordinary. You must be careful. Su Jing got along well with these students. Li Chongqing was a newcomer and was an outsider to her. After seeing Li Chongqing's strength just now, of course, she was afraid that Jin Wenwen would be at a disadvantage. Don't worry. Hearing that, Jin Wenwen nodded. There was no trace of fear in her eyes. Instead, there was a bit more fighting spirit. You really want to fight with me? Li Chongqing smiled and thought, it's really not easy to be a combat coach. Please advise me. Unexpectedly, the other party didn't respond to him at all. Instead, she took a step forward and threw a swift and fierce high whip kick at Li Chongqing. He acted as soon as he said he would, without the slightest hesitation. He was determined to put Li Chongqing in his place. At this time, Su Jing had already walked to the side to watch the fight. Outside the combat room, there were also many people watching the show. Teacher Su Jing, who is this young man? He actually dares to fight with Jin Wenwen? A PE teacher standing at the door, who had a good relationship with Su Jing, asked. The combat club's new coach? What? Many people at the door were surprised. After all, Li Chongqing looked at most in his early 20s. To be the coach of the combat club at such an age, the strength of the people in the combat club was very clear to everyone. For a moment, many people were looking forward to it. And at this time, Li Chongqing had already dodged 3 of Jin Wenwen's swift and fierce attacks in a row. Jin Wenwen came from a martial arts family. As the saying went, Southern Fist and Northern Kick. Because Southerners were petite, the martial arts they practiced were usually things like Wing Chun, Luohan Fist, and Hong Fist, which were good at close combat. And Northern Kick didn't just refer to the leg techniques that Northerners were good at. Instead, the Northern Fist techniques were wide open and wide, which was suitable for Northerners with tall statures. Generally speaking, Southern Fist was more suitable for women to practice, but what Jin Wenwen displayed was obviously the style of the Northern sect. For a woman to fight with a sense of majesty, even the spectators who didn't know martial arts felt agitated. After dodging 7 or 8 of the opponent's moves in a row, Li Chongqing finally felt a trace of impatience in his heart. Suddenly, he took a step forward, his fist carrying a biting wind as it smashed on the sole of Jin Wenwen's foot. After forcing Jin Wenwen to take 3 steps back, his body suddenly leaped high into the air, and a dashing and fierce roundhouse kick landed on Jin Wenwen's chest. Bang! A dull sound rang out. Under this powerful kick, Jin Wenwen took 7 or 8 steps back, and then fell to the ground with a plop. A clear footprint appeared on her chest. The voices of the people who were still cheering for Jin Wenwen abruptly stopped. Wei Hu and Wang Dongxing took a step forward at the same time. They had practiced together with Jin Wenwen and already had a deep relationship. Sister Wenwen, are you okay? Wang Dongxing stared fiercely at Li Chongqing and asked with concern. But Jin Wenwen ignored Wang Dongxing and stood up shakily from the ground. Full of hatred, she spat at Li Chongqing's position and yelled, "Shameless!" With that, she ran straight out of the combat room. Only then did Li Chongqing realize that the kick just now seemed to be in the wrong place. It was just that in the fight just now, he only wanted to teach Jin Wenwen a lesson and didn't think so much. Brat, if my sister Wenwen is hurt in the slightest, I won't let you go. Wang Dongxing snorted coldly and then chased after Jin Wenwen. Leaving Wei Hu alone, he stared coldly at Li Chongqing. What? You want to fight me too? Li Chongqing clenched his fists and was a little displeased. These 3 students dared to throw a tantrum at their coach. Did they have any manners? If he didn't teach these guys a lesson, he probably wouldn't be able to keep his position as coach. What kind of ability is it to bully me when I'm injured? When the injury on my hand heals, see if I don't beat your face until it blossoms. Wei Hu snorted coldly and took off his glove. Only then did one see that his left hand was wrapped in a sandbag. Although it wasn't a serious injury, it would definitely affect his strength if he fought. 1 week later, when my injury heals, I'll beat you until you're lying on the ground calling me grandpa. Wei Hu strode out of the combat room after he finished speaking. In the end, only Li Chongqing and Su Jing were left in the combat room. Su Jing also didn't expect things to end up like this. She looked at Li Chongqing with some hesitation and said, Coach Li, what do you think we should do? Li Chongqing rubbed his head and said, Isn't he going to challenge me in a week? When I beat them all down, they'll naturally become my students obediently. Hearing Li Chongqing's words, Su Jing sighed and muttered, If I didn't kick Jin Wenwen in the chest, how could she admit defeat so easily? Moreover, Wang Dongxing and Wei Hu are much stronger than Jin Wenwen. It won't be that easy to beat them all down. Chapter 9. After leaving the combat room, Li Chongqing went to the store in front of the school to buy some daily necessities before returning to his dormitory. Chu Yaotian had already helped Li Chongqing with the registration procedures as the school had already started for some time. When Li Chongqing arrived at the dormitory, there was only a tall man engrossed in playing mobile games. Seeing Li Chongqing come in, he put down the phone and smiled at Li Chongqing. You are the new roommate, right? My name is Yang Fan. Hello, Li Chongqing. Li Chongqing smiled at him. Not long after the luggage was laid out, the other 2 roommates also came back. One of them was wearing thick glasses called Zhang Xiaofeng, who introduced himself as a science student. The other handsome guy was wearing branded clothes and was said to be a rich second generation, but he didn't have the arrogance of a rich second generation, especially when he smiled, revealing a mouth full of white teeth, giving people a feeling of sunshine. It was noon, and the science student Zhang Xiaofeng proposed to have a gathering to get to know each other. The rich second-generation Jiang Tao said that he was going to treat a school leader to a meal and introduce him to the 3 so that they could take care of each other in the future. Li Chongqing originally wanted to decline, but under the persuasion of Jiang Tao and the other 2, he could only nod his head and agree. Jiang Tao drove a BMW 7 Series, which should be the extended version, looking very domineering. Driving the car in the school, the number of people who turned their heads along the way was extremely high. The 4 of them arrived at a big restaurant not far from the school. Soon, the school leader also came. It was said that he was the vice director of a department, surnamed Huang. He was in his 40s, was not tall, had an oily face, and had a beer belly. After Director Huang came, Jiang Tao took the initiative to introduce Li Chongqing and the other 2. Director Huang just nodded slightly. As a university's department director, although he was only a vice director, he still held a lot of power. If it wasn't for Jiang Tao's father, he would never have come if a few students invited him to a meal. During the meal, Jiang Tao took the initiative to propose a toast to Director Huang. Obviously, this rich second generation had grown up in a business family and had been exposed to some business matters since he was young. A few words of flattery made Director Huang smile. Although Zhang Xiaofeng and Yang Fan weren't as good at speaking as Jiang Tao, they still tried their best to maintain the atmosphere and join the conversation. On the other hand, Li Chongqing sat there without saying a word. Occasionally, he would pick up his chopsticks and take a few bites of food. Even when Director Huang took the initiative to toast him with a glass of wine, he only nodded slightly. There was no expression of flattery on his face. Although Director Huang did not say anything, he was already shaking his head in his heart. After working in education for half his life and climbing up the ranks of the system, he had long formed his own set of evaluation standard. Although Jiang Tao was a rich second generation, he was obviously not a playboy. Zhang Xiaofeng was a science guy with a high IQ and a decent EQ. Although Yang Fan was slightly inferior, he was good at making jokes and easing the atmosphere. His eyesight was also good. In the future, he would definitely be liked by the leaders in society. Although he didn't have much ability, being a department head or something like that wouldn't be a problem. Only Li Chongqing was different. Director Huang looked at Li Chongqing again and found that he was still looking down. He immediately shook his head. This kind of person was honest and inarticulate, but in a bad way, he was stupid. In the future, his achievements wouldn't be too great and he wouldn't have much value. At this time, Yang Fan suddenly exclaimed, "Look, isn't that one of the 4 beauties in our school, Chu Meng? She actually came to eat in this restaurant. What a coincidence." Hearing Yang Fan's words, Jiang Tao and Zhang Xiaofeng both turned their heads. Even Director Huang raised his head. "This Chu Meng is one of the 4 beauties in our school. She is known as the goddess of otakus," Yang Fan said. At this time, Chu Meng had already walked into the restaurant. Together with her was the girl Li Chongqing saw first when he woke up that day, Xiao Chan. The 2 girls were talking as they walked. Chu Meng just happened to turn her head and saw Li Chongqing sitting by the window. Her footsteps paused. "Sister Chu Meng, why aren't you walking?" Xiao Chan followed Chu Meng's gaze and saw Li Chongqing sitting there. Her face was immediately filled with shame and anger. "So it's this guy." Xiao Chan clenched her fists. She was about to come over and settle the score with Li Chongqing when Chu Meng reacted and pulled her away. Although Chu Meng didn't know the reason why her grandpa treated Li Chongqing that day, her sixth sense as a woman told her that Li Chongqing was a bit evil. She didn't want her best friend to provoke Li Chongqing. After Chu Meng and Xiao Chan walked in, Jiang Tao and the others came back to their senses. At the same time, they looked at Li Chongqing with confusion. "She knows you." Even Director Huang revealed a look of curiosity. As the director of the school, he naturally knew Chu Meng's identity. Seeing everyone's gaze, Li Chongqing shook his head. "I don't know her." Hearing Li Chongqing's words, they all breathed a sigh of relief. "I knew it. Brother, you just came to the school, how could you know the beauty Chu?" "Yeah, Chu Meng is my goddess." The science guy, Yang Fan, looked at the direction Chu Meng disappeared in and reluctantly withdrew his gaze. "You can only dream about it. Even young Master Qin, one of the 4 young masters of the school, doesn't catch her eye. You don't have a chance," Jiang Tao directly said from the side. "Really? Even young Master Qin doesn't have a chance?" It was obviously Yang Fan's first time hearing this news. "I heard that young Master Qin is the young master of the Qin group. His family is very rich, sitting on hundreds of billions of assets. He's also handsome, a typical tall, rich, and handsome man. Qin family's hundreds of billions of assets is nothing." Jiang Tao curled his lips. "Compared to Chu family, Qin family is like this." As he spoke, he raised his pinky and gestured. "Really? Where did this Chu family come from?" Zhang Xiaofeng and Yang Fan were interested. They only knew the identity of Qin Yi, but they didn't know that Chu Meng, one of the 4 school beauties, had such a big background. "Of course, it's true. Chu family is the real rich family of Qingzhou," Director Huang suddenly said with a bit of emotion on his face. Chapter 10. Because Director Huang still had things to deal with at school in the afternoon, the meal ended quickly. Everyone dispersed and left the restaurant. Li Chongqing didn't go back to the dormitory with Jiang Tao and the others, but left alone. When he left the combat room, Su Jing asked Li Chongqing to leave his phone number. Only then did he realize how outdated he was. Among the things Chu Yaotian gave to Li Chongqing was a bank card, so Li Chongqing went to the mobile phone store to buy a new mobile phone and get a card. With the help of the staff, he also applied for a WeChat number. After leaving the mobile phone store, seeing that it was still early, he went to a library near the school. He had been sleeping for more than 30 years, and in these 30 years, earth-shaking changes had occurred. Li Chongqing deeply felt that he was outdated, so he planned to use books to quickly understand the current world. First, he found a book called 30 Years of Reform and Opening Up, to quickly understand what had happened during his sleep. Then, he randomly read some internet finance and a book called History of the Struggle of the New World. By the time he finished reading these books, several hours had passed. Seeing that it was getting late, he planned to read one more book and go back. Just as Li Chongqing reached out to grab the thick book of modern history, a slender, jade-like hand also reached out to grab the same book. When the two hands accidentally touched each other, the other person immediately retracted her hand as if she had been electrocuted and took a step back. At the same time, a cold voice sounded, "Rogue!" Li Chongqing looked up in surprise. Looking at the girl's appearance, she was beautiful, her skin was white, and her figure was slim and curvy. She was definitely a femme fatale. This girl didn't look old, so she should be a student of Qingzhou University. Li Chongqing was looking at her, but he saw the girl frown slightly with a bit of disdain in her eyes. She said with disgust, "You should also be a student of Qingzhou University, but you actually did such an unbearable thing in such a sacred place like the library. You're really discrediting our university." Li Chongqing was a little stunned and said innocently, "What did you say? Just now I was the one who stretched my hand out first, and you stretched your hand out later. You were deliberately taking advantage of me." Li Chongqing knew that he had to strike first to gain the initiative, otherwise, he would never be able to clear his name. "You're so thick-skinned." The woman's face turned cold. "This guy is obviously trying to take advantage of me, yet he's still trying to play the blame game. Look at how old-fashioned he's dressed. One look and I can tell that he's an otaku." Glaring at Li Chongqing with disgust, the girl turned around and walked down the stairs. Li Chongqing shook his head speechlessly. After the girl left, Li Chongqing continued to read for a while. When he felt that it was about time, he left the library as well. The library was not too far from the school, so Li Chongqing was too lazy to wait for the bus and walked all the way back. Just as they reached a secluded alley not far from the school, they suddenly heard someone screaming for help. Li Chongqing stopped in his tracks and saw a man grabbing a woman's hand in the alleyway, pulling and tugging at her. What a small world! Li Chongqing smiled bitterly. Because the girl who was screaming for help was the girl from the library. "Situnan, let go of me, you bastard. If you dare to touch me, my boyfriend will not let you go." "Your boyfriend? Ha! You're talking about Ma Liang, right? He was just playing with you, but you took it seriously. Tell me, how much money did he give you?" "I, Situnan, will give you 10 times as long as you spend one night with me." "You bastard!" The girl was furious and slapped Situnan's face. Slap. It was obvious that he had used a lot of strength in this slap. When the slap landed, Situnan was stunned for a moment, but he quickly reacted and his eyes became violent. "Lu Yao, how dare you hit me? Today, I'm going to rape you." As he spoke, he directly pressed the girl's body against the wall and reached out to tear off her clothes. "Excuse me, can you guys find a secluded place to continue? This will affect the city's appearance." Situnan, who was originally in a frenzy, suddenly froze. He turned his head and saw a harmless face. His eyes suddenly revealed a fierce light. My dad is the chairman of the Simon Group. If you don't want to die, then get the hell out of here. Li Chongqing couldn't help but roll his eyes. Why don't you say your dad is Li Gang? Although Li Chongqing wasn't a kind person, he didn't mind teaching this kind of trash who bullied women on the street a little lesson if he met Li Chongqing. So when the other party asked him to get the hell out, he didn't leave. Instead, he took a few steps forward. Get the hell out? My teacher didn't teach me when I was young. Why don't you show me? You're looking for death. How could Situ Nan not see that Li Chongqing was teasing him? He immediately let go of Lu Yao's collar and rushed towards Li Chongqing. He raised his fist and punched. Although this guy's body was hollowed out by alcohol and women, he obviously practiced taekwondo and other fancy martial art. His punch was quite powerful. Unfortunately, he met Li Chongqing. When his fist came over, Li Chongqing just gently turned around and dodged his fist. At the same time, he kicked out with a kick in the groin. Bang! Then, this arrogant guy who wanted to commit violence on the street let out an extremely ecstatic wail. Then, he covered his crotch and squatted down, tears of grievance flowing out of his eyes due to the pain. You're too much. You actually kicked here. Let's go, what are you waiting for? Did you enjoy the process just now and want to continue? If that's the case, then I won't bother you. Li Chongqing looked at the girl with a playful expression. The girl blushed and followed Li Chongqing step by step. After walking a few hundred meters, she said weakly, "Thank you." "You're welcome. It's nothing." Li Chongqing waved his hand. At this time, the two had already walked to the school gate. "I'll buy you something," the girl suddenly said. Without waiting for Li Chongqing to speak, she ran to the supermarket nearby. A few minutes later, she came out with a big bag of things and handed it to Li Chongqing. "Take this as my thanks for saving my life." With that, she directly stuffed the things into Li Chongqing's hand and waved at Li Chongqing. "Goodbye, I have an elective class in the afternoon." After that, she walked into the school, leaving Li Chongqing only a slim back view. Looking at the messy snacks and fruits in the bag, Li Chongqing couldn't help but smile. From the beginning to the end, she didn't even ask for my name. Giving me a bag of snacks is a kind reminder. She has already thanked me. Are we not from the same world? Ha, woman. Chapter 11. He lifted the heavy pile of snacks in his hand. Although this melodramatic hero saving the damsel in distress didn't develop according to the melodramatic plot, it was still a reward for his hard work. Just as he was about to leave with the snacks, he saw a card fall on the ground. He picked it up and looked at it. Wasn't it the girl from before? Lu Yao, Fine Arts Department. Needless to say, it was the snacks that the girl bought for Li Chongqing. At this time, the girl had already disappeared from his sight. Li Chongqing could only pick it up and find an opportunity to return it to her. Carrying the bag of snacks back to the dormitory, the rich second-generation Jiang Tao was lying on the bed chatting with his girlfriend. Seeing Li Chongqing come back, he greeted Li Chongqing. After the meal, the members of the dormitory had completely accepted Li Chongqing as their new roommate. Occasionally, they would glance at the girl in the video with heavy makeup, but it wasn't difficult to see her beautiful face. Although the school was a pure land, the university was more like a microcosm of society. For a rich second generation like Jiang Tao, there were very few girls who could refuse his pursuit. Not to mention, this guy was handsome enough. Using Zhang Xiaofeng's words at the dinner table, there was no justice in this world. Zhang Xiaofeng and Yang Fan were playing Mobile Legends, which was a very popular mobile game recently. Li Chongqing roughly understood that he didn't know how to play. He put a pile of snacks on the table and called them to eat. Jiang Tao chatted with his new girlfriend for a while and then announced to everyone, "In a week's time it will be my birthday. At that time, I will invite everyone to go out and play. How about it?" Food and accommodation will all be on me. Okay. Zhang Xiaofeng and Yang Fan, who were originally playing games in high spirits, raised their heads and revealed an excited expression. This Jiang Tao was a rich second generation. His family was rich, so even if they spent his money, they wouldn't feel anything. However, Li Chongqing shook his head. You guys go, I won't go. He just met them and felt that there was no need to participate in this kind of thing. Who knew that after saying that, Jiang Tao immediately pretended to be angry. Why don't you give me face? You have to go. Since we're in the same dormitory, we'll be brothers from now on. Yang Fan and Zhang Xiaofeng also tried to persuade him. Li Chongqing could only nod helplessly. I'll ask Xiao Ying to bring a few of her best friends to this birthday party and help you guys settle down. Xiao Ying was Jiang Tao's girlfriend. It was said that Jiang Tao didn't even spend 3 hours with her. In Jiang Tao's words, this was the charm of this bro, sure. Zhang Xiaofeng and Yang Fan were both excited. A university without romance would be incomplete. How is it, Chongqing? Are you a little excited? Let me tell you, my girlfriend's best friends are all pretty. When the time comes, it will depend on your abilities. Although Jiang Tao wasn't considered a hedonist among the rich second generation, he had the same problem as the rich second generation, being fickle in love. When they talked about beauties, they immediately became enraptured. From his girlfriend's best friend to the 4 goddesses in school, the more they talked, the more excited they became. I have something to do, so I need to go out for a while. Li Chongqing stood up and greeted them, then left the dormitory. He got a new SIM card and went to Su Jing's place to leave his contact information. Su Jing wasn't there, but there was an intern teacher there. She obviously knew about Li Chongqing's matter. Coming out of the office building, Li Chongqing planned to stroll around the campus. But not long after he walked out, he heard a commotion in front of him. A lot of people were gathering in one direction. What's going on? Li Chongqing's curiosity was also aroused. At this time, he vaguely heard the people next to him talking, saying that one of the 4 beauties in school, Lu Yao, just passed by here. Lu Yao? Li Chongqing's face was startled. Isn't that the girl who saved the damsel in distress? I can just return her student ID card. Thinking of this, Li Chongqing squeezed to the front. After squeezing to the front with great difficulty, he saw a pretty figure walking into the teaching building. Lu Yao said she had a class in the afternoon, so she should be going to class. Li Chongqing didn't have time to think and followed her into the building. He saw Lu Yao enter a classroom. There were already a lot of students in the classroom. Li Chongqing originally wanted to directly give her his student ID card, but at this time, the classroom door was pushed open and a young lecturer walked in. So he had to find an inconspicuous seat and sit down. He bitterly smiled and thought that he would just take it as a free class and return her student ID card after class. Lu Yao entered the classroom and lowered her head to organize the materials in her hands. She didn't notice a familiar figure sitting not far behind her. Li Chongqing's angle just happened to be able to see Lu Yao's jade-like cheek. He found that a lot of people's eyes fell on Lu Yao's body. The seat behind was more suitable than the seat in front to admire a beauty. There was no need to worry about the awkwardness of the other party's gaze. Although Li Chongqing's seat was a bit remote, it was regarded as a golden seat by many of Lu Yao's secret admirers. A man next to him coldly snorted. Obviously, he was dissatisfied with Li Chongqing occupying the feng shui treasure spot that he occupied every day. This made Li Chongqing quite speechless. Chapter 12. Lu Yao was sitting near the podium with her head lowered. She was taking notes attentively. As the prettiest girl in the fine arts department, she was used to being the center of attention. Therefore, even though she knew there were countless pairs of eyes staring at her, she was still able to keep her heart as calm as still water. In a remote corner, Li Changxing kept twirling the fountain pen in his hand. The fountain pen in his hand seemed to have been given a life of its own as it danced around his fingertips. This caused the male classmate who originally had a lot of resentment towards him to widen his eyes involuntarily. He thought to himself, is this kid a magician? He can actually do so many tricks with a fountain pen in his hand. After waiting for the class to end, Li Changxing left his seat and strode towards Lu Yao's seat. The male classmate who thought Li Changxing was Lu Yao's secret admirer looked at Li Changxing in astonishment. He thought to himself, what is this kid doing? Is he going to confess in front of everyone? Lu Yao, who had just put away her notes, suddenly realized that there was someone in front of her. She raised her head. When she saw Li Changxing's face clearly, her face revealed a look of surprise. Li Changxing reached into his pocket for the student ID. However, in the next moment, Lu Yao stood up and said to Li Changxing in a very serious tone, although you helped me, if you want to pursue me, then don't say anything. I don't like you. After saying that, she brushed past Li Changxing and walked past him. Following Lu Yao's words, a commotion broke out in the classroom. This is interesting. He chased a girl all the way to class, but she doesn't even like him. This guy is really something. Lu Yao is our school's goddess. He should take a piss and look at himself in the mirror. He's really a toad that wants to eat swan meat. Li Changxing couldn't help but smile bitterly under the merciless ridicule of the people around him. He had only come to return Lu Yao's dropped student ID out of kindness. He didn't expect Lu Yao to say such words to her benefactor, who saved her half an hour ago. Women. Li Changxing shook his head. Originally, he didn't expect Lu Yao to fall in love with him at first sight after saving the damsel in distress. However, under the watchful eyes of so many people, he still felt a trace of disappointment in his heart. Although Li Changxing had lived for a long time, he was still a person of flesh and blood. Humans would be moved, sad, happy, and sad. Wait a minute. Although Li Changxing felt uncomfortable in his heart, he did not forget the purpose of his visit to Lu Yao this time, which was to return the student ID to her, so he spoke again. I don't want to repeat myself. Lu Yao stopped and turned around. Her face was as cold as ice. She didn't expect this guy to be so thick-skinned and pester her. She had already said that she would not like him. Could it be that just because he had saved her life, he wanted her to devote herself to him and throw herself into his arms? What a joke! A moment ago she was still grateful to him, but now there was only disgust left. Under everyone's pitiful gaze, Li Changxing's originally smiling face gradually turned cold. With a sneer, he took out the card from his pocket and then lightly threw it at Lu Yao's feet. Under the countless puzzled gazes in the classroom, he walked toward the door with his head held high. When he passed by Lu Yao, he didn't stop at all. It wasn't until Li Changxing disappeared into the classroom door that Lu Yao bent down to pick up the student ID. Her cheeks were slightly flushed. Obviously, Li Changxing didn't chase her into the classroom to confess to her, but to return her student ID. She actually thought too highly of herself. However, thinking of that arrogant figure leaving, Lu Yao, who had always been proud, felt a trace of imperceptible pain in her heart. Especially when Li Changxing passed by her and looked at her with ridicule, it made her feel very uncomfortable. That student didn't seem to be here to pursue Lu Yao. He was just here to give her the student ID. But how did Lu Yao's student end up in his hands? This Lu Yao has always been arrogant like a little peacock, but this time, she thought too highly of herself. She thought that all the men in the world revolved around her. There were many girls who originally didn't like Lu Yao. At this moment, they finally found a reason to speak ill of her. Chapter 13. After leaving the school building, Li Changxing went straight back to his dorm. However, Jiang Tao and the others were not in the dorm. He did not know if they were in class or out fooling around. University was definitely a paradise for young people. Sitting on his bed, he casually picked up a pack of Zhonghua cigarettes from the table and lit it up. The cigarettes were all provided by Jiang Tao. As a real rich second generation, many of the dorm's expenses were paid by Jiang Tao. It could be seen that this rich second generation's character was not bad. Moreover, from their interactions, Li Chongqing did not find that he had a superior attitude. Lying on his bed, the smoke formed a smoke ring in the air. He originally planned to rest for a while and go to the school cafeteria for dinner. At this time, the dorm's door was suddenly pushed open and an uninvited guest walked in. "I didn't expect you to be a student." The person who walked in was none other than one of the members of the combat team, Wang Dongxing, nicknamed Wang Xiao. "I sent someone to investigate you. The final result was that you were a freshman this year. I thought that the information my people got was wrong. I didn't expect you to really be a student." As a rich second generation, it was not difficult for Wang Dongxing to buy the information of a newly transferred coach. However, Li Chongqing was actually a student. This made him surprised and angry at the same time. A student who was younger than him actually became his coach through the back door. This was too much. "You became the coach of the combat club for the money." Saying this, Wang Dongxing directly took out a stack of money from his pocket and threw it at Li Chongqing. "This is 50,000 yuan. As far as I know, the monthly salary of a combat team coach is only 5,000 yuan. Take this money and immediately resign from your position as the coach of the combat team tomorrow. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude." 50,000 yuan, hee. Li Chongqing shook his head. Perhaps for an ordinary student, 50,000 yuan was not a small number. However, when he bought the phone, he checked his balance. The bank card that Chu Yaotian gave him had 8-digit. Moreover, in Li Chongqing's eyes, RMB was just a string of dispensable Arabic numerals. "I became the coach of the combat team purely out of interest. You should take the money back." Li Chongqing accurately flicked the cigarette butt in his hand into the trash can opposite him. He clapped his hands, sat up, and looked straight at Wang Dongxing, who was glaring at him. If nothing unexpected happened, he should be his future student. The word student made Li Chongqing smile. Back then, he had taught quite a few students, and all of them had become famous figures without exception. It could be said that this fellow was fortunate enough to be his student. Smoke was rising from his ancestral graves, yet the other party was still unwilling to accept it. "Stop King pretending you don't know." Wang Dongxing clenched his fists and waved them in front of Li Chongqing. "You'd better know your place. If you don't resign, I'll beat you until you can't take care of yourself." "Really?" Li Chongqing shook his head. He gently patted the red notes that Wang Dongxing had thrown at him, then slowly stood up. "Beat me until I can't take care of myself. If you have the ability, I'll be very pleased. I think you won't cry until you see the coffin." Wang Dongxing was completely enraged. He raised his fist and was about to land it. However, Li Chongqing did not wait for him to make a move. He hooked his leg on top of Wang Dongxing's ankle. Instantly, Wang Dongxing lost his balance and staggered back 2 steps. However, he bumped into the table behind him. At this moment, Li Chongqing took a big step forward. At the same time, his knee abruptly hit Wang Dongxing's lower abdomen. Instantly, Wang Dongxing's body was directly thrown backward, knocking the table over. Li Chongqing followed up once again. Following that, a whip kick landed on Wang Dongxing's chest. Wang Dongxing's entire body was sent flying backward. Clang! He crashed directly into the metal frame of the bed behind him. The metal frame made of metal pipes was dented by the impact. Wang Dongxing, who was completely stunned by Li Chongqing, just let out an angry roar and wanted to get up from the ground. Li Chongqing suddenly stepped forward, grabbed his collar, and pulled him up from the ground. Then, he elbowed Wang Dongxing's cheek. Suddenly, a nosebleed spurted out. This time, Li Chongqing stopped. He tidied up his somewhat messy clothes, sat on the bed, and crossed his legs. He picked up the Zhonghua cigarettes that had fallen under the table, lit one, and quietly looked at Wang Dongxing, who had been completely stunned. Wang Dongxing, who had won a gold medal in the World Championship, did not even have a chance to fight back in the process of fighting with Li Chongqing. In less than 10 seconds, he was KO'd. How about it? Now you still want to beat me until I can't take care of myself? Li Chongqing smiled slightly. His eyes were full of playfulness. Chapter 14. After waiting for a long time, Wang Dongxing finally got up from the ground. His eyes were blood red as he stared at Li Chongqing, his eyes filled with anger. Pick up your money and get the hell out of here. Tomorrow, obediently go to the sparring room for lessons. Otherwise, quickly transfer to another school. Why? Wang Dongxing subconsciously opened his mouth. Because if you don't go to the sparring room for training and don't transfer, I will let you know the taste of pain that makes you wish you were dead. As he said this, Li Chongqing seemed to have thought of something as the corner of his mouth hooked up into a smile. However, when this smile fell into Wang Dongxing's eyes, it gave him a chill in his heart. Pick up the money, didn't you hear me? Li Chongqing raised his eyebrows. Seeing Wang Dongxing standing there motionless, his eyes revealed a bit of ill intent. I'll pick it up. Wang Dongxing originally intended to fight Li Chongqing to the end, but when he met Li Chongqing's eyes, he subconsciously nodded. Then, he squatted down and picked up the 50,000 yuan in red notes, stuffed them back into his bag, and stood up to leave. Wait a minute. Remember to go to training tomorrow, or else you'll have to bear the consequences. Wang Dongxing turned his head and revealed a bit of indignation. Today I lost to you because I was careless. You want to be my coach? You're not qualified. I will beat you. Finished speaking, he coolly turned around and walked out of Li Chongqing's dormitory door. However, his bloody nose and swollen face destroyed his current image. This guy has quite a personality. Li Chongqing lifted the table from the ground and roughly tidied up the messy dormitory. Just as he was about to go to the school cafeteria to eat, he suddenly heard a burst of noise in the corridor outside. Soon, the dormitory door opened. Jiang Tao and the other two walked in with their arms around each other's shoulders, carrying several lunchboxes in their hand. Yo, Lao Si is back. Just in time. Brothers, let's drink together. Yang Fan carried several cans of beer in his hands. Zhang Xiaofeng placed the lunchboxes on the table, while Yang Fan also placed the beer in his hands on the table. Jiang Tao, on the other hand, took off his coat and was about to hang it on the headboard when he saw a large dent in the iron pipe. He couldn't help but reveal some doubts as he looked at Li Chongqing. I say, fourth brother, did you do this? I know you're in a bad mood, but my bed didn't offend you. That's right, fourth brother. We bought these wines especially to accompany you. Men, there are plenty of fish in the sea. Why must you stick to a crooked tree? Yang Fan patted Li Chongqing's shoulder and comforted him. What do you mean? Li Chongqing was a little confused. Lao Si, stop pretending. We all heard that there was a freshman who chased a girl all the way to class. In the end, he was rejected by the girl in front of everyone. He was so embarrassed that he covered his face and ran away. Someone even recorded it and posted it on the school forum. That person was you, Lao Si, Yang Fan said. Yes. Zhang Xiaofeng also nodded. We originally planned to go to the cafeteria to eat, but after reading the post, Jiang Tao said that you must be sad in the dormitory, so we bought vegetables and wine to accompany you. Don't worry, there's no trouble that a bottle of beer can't solve. If there is, then 10 bottles. Li Chongqing finally understood that it was a misunderstanding. He hurriedly explained, I didn't chase the girl at all. She just happened to lose her student ID, and I picked it up to return it to her. All right, fourth brother, you don't have to explain. Explaining is covering up, and covering up is the truth. Jiang Tao laughed and directly opened a can of beer. I say, fourth brother, that Lu Yao is the prettiest girl in the fine arts department. Not to mention you, even I might not be able to catch her eyes. I heard that her boyfriend is called Ma Liang. His father is the boss of Qingzhou's logistics industry. Even our family can't compare to him. You just give up. Yeah, fourth brother, if you chase Lu Yao, the gap between your status is too big. It's impossible for you to succeed. But you don't have to be sad, I'll introduce you to someone someday. The few people in the dormitory talked one after another, leaving Li Chongqing no chance to explain. In the end, he could only shake his head and sit down to drink with them. Chapter 15. Just as he was about to finish his beer, Li Chongqing's phone suddenly rang. Who is calling me? Just as he picked up the phone, he heard a woman's voice coming from the other side. Surnamed Li, I'm warning you, immediately resign from your position as the coach of the fighting team. Hearing the voice, Li Chongqing knew it must be the cold girl from the fighting team, Jin Wenwen. Li Chongqing simply scoffed at this kind of threat, so he threw the phone aside without hesitation. Seeing the doubtful eyes of his roommates, Li Chongqing explained, It's a harassment call. Harassment call? Why does it sound like a woman's voice to me? Jiang Tao, who was the closest to Li Chongqing, was puzzled. It's a woman, asking me if I want special service. You see, I'm so pure, I definitely won't want it. Li Chongqing thought of the small advertisement pasted on the telephone pole in front of the school and explained. So that's how it is. Jiang Tao and the others also often see the advertisements pasted everywhere. Yang Fan patted Li Chongqing's shoulder and advised, Brother, you must not believe it. It's all a scam, a game of badger. As he spoke, he just happened to glance at Li Chongqing's phone, and his eyes lit up. Lao Si, your phone can't be 8848, right? You're a tycoon, this phone is more expensive than Apple. Zhang Xiaofeng's eyes also lit up, and he reached out to take the phone, his face full of surprise. Although the mobile phone is expensive, it's actually no different from an ordinary one. It's just a profiteer who deceived people. From Good Memory Star to Back Good, there's ebook, and now there's the 8848. It's all based on false advertising to sell an ordinary item for nearly 10 times the price. However, I have to say that he's definitely a marketing master. He can capture the general psychology of people. What mobile phone used by successful people, as if people who don't use this phone are not successful. Jiang Tao shook his head, his face full of disdain. Li Chongqing didn't know much about these things. When he bought the phone, the other party told him that this was the most expensive one in China, so he bought it. As for the performance, he didn't know anything about it. After hearing Jiang Tao's words, he realized that he had probably wasted his money. While Jiang Tao was teaching Li Chongqing about mobile phones, Yang Fan suddenly handed the phone to Li Chongqing. Fourth brother, that phone call came again. This guy is really like a haunting ghost. Li Chongqing pressed the answer button, and an angry voice immediately came through. Surnamed Li, you actually dared to say that I'm doing special services. I'm so angry, I'm going to tear you into pieces. Hearing Jin Wenwen gnashing her teeth on the phone, Li Chongqing remembered that he had thrown his phone aside and forgotten to hang up. Jin Wenwen had heard the rest of the conversation, so he decisively hung up the phone. On the other side of the phone, Jin Wenwen, who was cursing and swearing, found that the phone had been hung up. She gritted her teeth and broke the ballpoint pen in her hand into 2 pieces. Clenching her fist, she muttered, Brat, just you wait. Fourth brother, who was the girl on the phone just now? Li Chongqing looked up and saw that Jiang Tao and the other 2 were looking at him curiously. Fourth brother, could it be your girlfriend? I didn't expect you to be so quiet, you really made us look at you with a whole new level of respect. Yang Fan patted Li Chongqing's shoulder and said, Let's drink. Li Changxing took the initiative to pick up the beer. They drank until 10 o'clock in the evening. They each bragged, and Jiang Tao shared his experience of picking up girls with Li Changxing and the other two. Zhang Xiaofeng and Yang Fan's eyes lit up as if they had found a treasure. During the whole process, Li Changxing remained silent. He hadn't felt this kind of youthful feeling for a long time. When they woke up the next morning, Jiang Tao and the other two had drunk a bit too much and were sleeping soundly with their heads covered. Li Changxing, after washing up, went straight to the sparring room. Just as he entered the sparring room, he saw Su Jing and the other three members of the fighting team. After seeing Li Changxing, Wang Dongxing and the other two's eyes were filled with hatred. "Do you dare to accept the challenge of the three of us?" Wei Hu said in a muffled voice. Chapter 16. Li Changxing didn't answer. He just gave him the middle finger. "You're asking for it." Wei Hu was furious. He didn't waste any time and rushed towards Li Changxing with his fist. Wei Hu was the most bad-tempered of the three in the combat team. Coupled with his bulky body, his iron fists were a nightmare for many people. Now that he was rushing over angrily, his feet stomping on the floor, the whole room seemed to shake. Just as Wei Hu rushed over, Jin Wenwen joined in. The two of them fought Li Changxing. Wang Dongxing, who was standing on the side, also rolled up his sleeves. Seeing that Wang Dongxing was about to make a move, Su Jing hurried forward to stop him. "Dongxing, you must calm down. You're the smartest of the three of you. Although Coach Li has some strength, he can't handle the three of you working together to beat him." Although she saw Li Changxing blow up the sandbag, she knew the strength of the three members of the combat team better. If Wang Dongxing also joined the fight, she didn't think Li Changxing would have a good time. "Teacher Su Jing, he broke my nose. How do you expect me to calm down?" Wang Dongxing pointed at his bandaged nose, then bypassed Su Jing and rushed towards Li Changxing. Su Jing stood there and watched Wang Dongxing rush over. She prayed for Li Changxing in her heart. The combat room was already in a mess. Although Jin Wenwen was a woman, her leg techniques were ferocious. Every attack was like a whip cracking in the air. Wang Dongxing practiced kickboxing and had won the world championship. He had rich combat experience. His positioning, attacking, and defense were perfect. As for Wei Hu, who was bulky like a bull, his fan-like fists were like iron hammers driven by his brute strength. He could probably punch through a metal plate. Facing these three elites from Qingzhou University, who were selected from tens of thousands of students, Li Changxing kept retreating. The three of them attacked for a full 3 minutes, but they didn't even touch his sleeves. Originally, Li Changxing had only tried his best to avoid the attacks because they were his future students. However, he gradually saw that the three of them had no intention of stopping. Instead, the speed of their punches became more and more ferocious. He could not help but feel impatient. At this moment, a group of people had already gathered outside the combat room. They were all sweating for Li Changxing. The three members of the combat team were famous for their ferocity. "How long do you think this coach can last?" someone asked his companion. "I think it will take at most a minute." No one was optimistic about Li Changxing. He dared to provoke the three demon kings of the combat team. He's still too young. At this moment, Li Changxing, who had been dodging non-stop, suddenly took 2 steps back and stopped. This caused Wang Dongxing and the other two to be stunned and somewhat suspicious. Chapter 17. At this moment, Li Changxing showed no mercy at all. He turned his body and threw Jin Wenwen away with both hands. At this moment, Wei Hu's thick arms suddenly hugged his neck from behind and tightened. This was the chokehold technique of grappling. In response, Li Changxing sank his chi into his dantian and spread out his body. A hidden force erupted from his neck. Wei Hu felt needles prickling his arms again, and his arms subconsciously loosened. At this moment, Li Changxing turned around and hit Wei Hu's chest with his elbow. "You're really trash. You can't even stand a little pain." Li Changxing taunted mercilessly. Indeed, although he had used hidden force just now, he had still held back. Wei Hu instantly loosened his arms, which meant that he wasn't fierce enough. Hearing Li Changxing's words, Wei Hu's face suddenly showed anger. However, he had just raised his arm when he felt a sharp pain in his lower abdomen. His huge body, which was 2 meters tall, was sent flying by Li Changxing's kick. When he landed on the ground, the entire combat room seemed to have experienced an earthquake. At this moment, Wang Dongxing rushed up in a classic free-for-all stance. He covered his head with one arm and punched at Li Changxing with the other. In response, Li Changxing raised his left arm to block and then threw an uppercut at Wang Dongxing's chin. In this crisis, Wang Dongxing blocked with his left arm and collided with Li Changxing's fist. With a crack, his strong left arm was instantly twisted into an arc. Then, he let out a miserable cry and took a few steps back. His arm hung limply by his side. Wang Dongxing's head was covered in cold sweat. It was obvious that his forearm had been broken by the blow just now. In the distance, Su Jing, who had just finished a call, saw this scene and was so frightened that her hand trembled. Her phone fell to the ground with a thud. She looked at Li Changxing with a bit of fear in her eyes. This was too savage. After Jin Wenwen landed, she wanted to rush up, but when she saw Wang Dongxing's condition, she didn't have the courage to lift her feet. Wang Dali had just stood up from the ground when he saw Li Changxing looking at him. He subconsciously went into an attacking posture. Then, he saw Li Changxing's body leaving an afterimage in the combat room. Before Wei Hu could do anything, he felt a sharp pain in his chest. His huge body flew out again and hit the wall behind him, creating a big hole in the cement wall. He fell to the ground and fainted. Su Jing, who was stunned on the spot, saw Li Changxing slowly turn his head. She couldn't help but stutter, "Coach Li, I'm not with them." She couldn't care less that the screen of her new phone, which she had just spent 8,000 yuan on, had already shattered into a spider web. Li Changxing glanced indifferently at Jin Wenwen, who was standing there trembling slightly. Jin Wenwen was so frightened that she took a step back and went into a defensive posture. Li Changxing didn't pay attention to her at all. He just smiled at Su Jing. "Your phone is broken. It's not my fault." After saying that, he turned around and walked out of the combat room as if nothing had happened. Many people rushed over after hearing the news, wanting to see how the new coach was dealt with. The people at the back couldn't see clearly what was going on inside the sparring room, so they kept trying to squeeze in. Meanwhile, the people at the very front had long been scared witless by Li Changxing's ferocious methods. Their bodies seemed to have stiffened, so how would they dare to take even half a step forward? Just as the outside was in chaos, Li Changxing walked out of the combat room. The people at the front didn't dare to block the path of this fiend. They hurriedly took the initiative to open up a path. The people at the back were craning their necks to look around. When they saw the new coach walk out, they were stunned for a moment. "What's going on? The new coach walked out unscathed?" Just as everyone was surprised, the siren of an ambulance came from outside. Then, they saw a group of nurses carrying a stretcher in. 2 minutes later, Wei Hu, who was as strong as an ox, and Wang Dongxing, the famous cold young master of the combat team, were carried out. Many people finally realized something, but they still couldn't believe that the new coach of the combat team had beaten Wei Hu and Wang Dongxing to such an extent when fighting 1 against 3. There was a lot of discussion, and they all felt it was unbelievable. At this time, Jin Wenwen walked out with a cold face. Among them, the female students of the table tennis team had a good relationship with Jin Wenwen. They were about to go up and ask what happened, but when they saw Jin Wenwen's face, which was as cold as ice for 10,000 years, they didn't dare to speak. At this time, only Su Jing, the beauty, was left in the combat room. She picked up the broken phone from the ground. She wanted to cry but had no tears. At the same time, she was even more shocked by Li Chongqing's strength. This guy was too ferocious. He beat up 2 students and sent them to the hospital. If the school's leaders knew about this, it would be hard to explain. However, when she thought about how he got this coaching position through the back door, she couldn't help but sneer. Let's see how this awesome guy will deal with the aftermath this time. Chapter 18. After leaving the combat team, Li Chongqing did not return to the dormitory. Instead, he wandered around the field alone. The environment in the university was still very beautiful. Just as he was sitting on the steps of the field, looking at the blue sky and white clouds while silently channeling the cultivation method in his body to absorb the thin spiritual energy in the air, a girl suddenly stood in front of him. Hello, my name is Zhang Mengmeng. I'm a member of the school's Go Club. I wonder if you're interested in joining the Go Club? Li Chongqing looked up and saw a beautiful girl in a half-sleeved shirt. She was about 1.6 meters tall and had a cute look on her face. Li Chongqing guessed that most guys would find it hard to reject such a beautiful girl's invitation to join an interest club. However, he was not in the mood to join the Go Club as the matter of the combat team had not been settled yet. So he smiled and said, I don't have such thoughts for now. It was probably the first time Zhang Mengmeng was rejected so directly by a guy. Just as she was about to say something, she suddenly exclaimed. Not far from the 2 of them, there was a football team playing. One of the guys was in the process of snatching the ball, but the angle of his kick was a little off. The football spun rapidly and flew towards Li Chongqing's position. Dodge it! Be careful! There was a burst of exclamations around them. The player who kicked the football was even more dumbfounded. The football was so fast. If it hit someone's head, it would definitely cause a concussion. The girls around them were so scared that they covered their eyes. Zhang Mengmeng subconsciously took a step back. She missed her footing and almost fell down the step. In the midst of everyone's dumbfounded expression, Li Chongqing did not even turn his head. He directly raised his fist to the right in front of him. With a poochie sound, the spinning football accurately hit the fist. A hole was instantly opened and the football was wrapped around the fist. The entire football field fell into a brief silence. This is unbelievable. He actually blew up the football with one punch. Everyone's eyes widened. It took more than 10 seconds for them to react. At this time, Li Chongqing stood up from the steps and smiled at the player who kicked the football. I'm so sorry. I blew up your football. It's okay. The player stammered. His eyes were filled with shock. Wow. So handsome. The girls who had been cheering for the football team let out sounds of infatuation. At this moment, Zhang Mengmeng regained her balance and looked at Li Chongqing in disbelief. She covered her neckline with her hands in fear, and her body heaved slightly. Li Chongqing couldn't help but look at her a few more times out of a sense of responsibility. Then, he smiled and said, My name is Li Chongqing. I don't have any plans to join any interest clubs right now. When I do, I will take the initiative to find you. After saying that, he smiled slightly and threw the football with a hole in it to the stunned player. With a distance of more than 30 meters between them, he actually landed steadily at the feet of the other party. This caused many of the male students to have expressions of admiration on their faces. At this moment, Li Chongqing's image in their hearts grew. Zhang Mengmeng only reacted after Li Chongqing had walked far away and disappeared at the end of the track. At this moment, a rather gentle woman walked over. I didn't expect our cute beauty to fail, but don't be depressed. I'll treat you to Western food later to soothe your wounded soul. Hearing the woman's words, Zhang Mengmeng shook her head. I'm not depressed. I just think his action of blowing up the football was too handsome. Handsome? The woman shook her head. What's the use of being handsome? It can't be eaten. Look at his clothes, he doesn't look like a rich man. With your looks, if you want to find a boyfriend, even if he's not a rich second generation, he has to be a young talent. Otherwise, how can he be worthy of you? Tisk. I just said he was handsome. I didn't say I wanted to find him as a boyfriend. And Xiaowan, how do you know he's not a low-key rich second generation? After saying that, Zhang Mengmeng was the first to overturn her own speculation. Look at his plain clothes. He really doesn't look like a rich second generation. Then, she shook her head. Why are we talking about this? Xiaowan, didn't you want to treat me to Western food? Let's go, I can't wait. You. The woman called Xiaowan shook her head. You're a foodie, but you're not fat anywhere else. It's really enviable. Of course, I have a child's face. After saying that, she looked down at her proud figure and felt the reluctant gazes of the male students around her. Her face showed some pride. Chapter 19. Just as he returned to the dormitory from the sports field, Li Changxing received a call from Su Jing. Coach Li, Vice Principal Yang wants you to go to his office. He already knows that Wei Hu and the 2 students from the combat room were sent to the hospital by you. Good luck to you. Su Jing's words were neither salty nor light, but there seemed to be some resentment. Wei Hu, that big blockhead, had a strong physique, so he woke up halfway to the hospital. After a checkup, he was fine, but Wang Dongxing's left arm was fractured. She had been with the students for more than a year, so she naturally didn't have a good attitude towards Li Changxing, the perpetrator. Of course, this was also because Li Changxing's performance in the combat room still had some influence, so Su Jing didn't say anything unpleasant. After Li Changxing hung up the phone, he said goodbye to Jiang Tao and the others and left the dormitory. Only then did he remember that Su Jing didn't tell him where Vice Principal Yang's office was. He called to ask, but no one answered for a long time. Just as he was distressed, he saw a middle-aged man with a big belly walking towards him. It was none other than the deputy director Huang that Jiang Tao had an appointment with at noon yesterday. Deputy Director Huang naturally recognized Li Changxing. He originally wanted to pretend that he didn't know him, but out of politeness Li Changxing said, "Hello, Director Huang." He couldn't pretend that he didn't know him, so he asked casually, "Isn't this student Li? What are you doing in the office building?" "It's like this. Vice Principal Yang, who is in charge of the school's sports, asked me to go to his office, but I don't know where it is. So it's like that. I also have something to ask Vice Principal Yang about. Come with me." As he spoke, he led Li Changxing through a small door on the side. They went up to the 5th floor and arrived at Vice Principal Yang's office. He knocked on the door and pushed it open. He saw an old man in his 50s sitting behind the desk, holding a purple teacup in his hand. The other party saw Deputy Director Huang and nodded. "Little Huang, you're here?" Then he looked suspiciously at Li Changxing behind Deputy Director Huang. "This is..." Just as Deputy Director Huang was about to introduce himself, Li Changxing said, "My name is Li Changxing. I heard that Vice Principal Yang is looking for me." Li Changxing was too lazy to explain what had happened today. As a coach, it was indeed too much for him to beat up a student and send her to the hospital. He could accept it if the other party criticized him. Since he was here to experience life, he naturally knew his place. As expected, after hearing Li Changxing's name, the other party's face immediately darkened. "I didn't expect the new coach of the combat team to be a brat. You've sent a student to the hospital. Do you know how terrible this is? If the student's parents find out or if this is exposed to the media, our university's reputation will be ruined by you." The vice principal was obviously furious, and his words were not polite at all. Li Changxing nodded repeatedly. On the other hand, Director Huang, who was beside him, had a look of surprise on his face. He did not expect Li Chongqing to be a coach of the university. He had heard a little about the combat team and knew that they were all physically strong. Li Chongqing was able to send them to the hospital, which meant that he was good at combat. But at the same time, there was a look of pity in his eyes. Obviously, Vice Principal Yang wanted to use Li Chongqing as a role model. He was afraid that he would not be able to escape today. When the time came, he might even be expelled from the university, let alone lose his coaching position. All right, I don't want to talk nonsense with you. You go to the combat team's teacher, Su Jing. The position of the university's coach is not suitable for you. Also, I've already reported the incident of the 2 students to the police. You're on your own now. After he finished speaking, he no longer looked at Li Chongqing. Instead, he looked at Deputy Director Huang. Little Huang, last time you helped me buy a branded bag from overseas. Your sister-in-law likes it very much. How much is it? I'll transfer it to your card later. Director Huang suddenly showed a flattered look. Vice Principal Yang, you're treating me like an outsider. I already said that it was a gift for my sister-in-law. If you give me money, then you're treating me like an outsider. Little Huang, how can I accept this? That bag must be worth tens of thousands of yuan. The 2 of them chatted as if there was no one else around, leaving Li Chongqing hanging. Li Chongqing smiled bitterly. When he was about to turn and leave, the office door was suddenly pushed open. A middle-aged man with sharp eyes walked in. The middle-aged man was wearing sportswear. He did not look like a teacher, but more like an athlete. He had the aura of a gangster. But the moment the middle-aged man came in, Vice Principal Yang, who had been sitting there with great arrogance, suddenly stood up. Director Huang, who was next to him, showed an extremely respectful expression. Principal Chen, why are you here? Vice Principal Yang's face was full of flattery, like a lackey meeting his master. I'm here to find someone in your office. As he spoke, his eyes swept over Li Chongqing. Principal Chen, you're looking for this guy, Li Chongqing, right? I didn't think that the matter with the combat team would alarm you. I don't know who was blind to have recruited such a notorious guy. Now that he has injured a student, we can't let him off so easily. I've already dismissed him and called the police at the same time. This kind of behavior is too vile, we can't tolerate it. Is that so? Principal Chen smiled slightly. When you did these things, did you ask for the opinions of the 2 students? It's no big deal if a member of the combat team gets injured during training. If you ask me, a coach who can injure a student is the true strength of a coach. If he can't even beat a student, then how can he be a coach? What do you mean? Vice Principal Yang was confused for a moment. You're Mr. Li Chongqing, right? My name is Chun Ligua. I'm the principal of Qingzhou University and also Elder Chu's student. I should have gone to see you when you first came to the school, but I happened to be outside inspecting. When I came back, I heard about the incident of the combat team. This matter has troubled you. Don't worry, leave the rest to me. After he finished speaking, he looked directly at Vice Principal Yang. Principal Yang, regarding Mr. Li's matter, can you give me some face? Of course, of course. Vice Principal Yang was about to cry. He thought he was dealing with a small coach with no background. Who would have thought that Chun Ligua was behind him? Although he was only a vice principal in name, Chun Ligua's words were equivalent to an imperial edict in Qingzhou University. As long as Chun Ligua was willing, he could fire him at any time. I'm really unlucky. Why didn't I investigate this guy's background before dealing with him? Vice Principal Yang wanted to slap himself hard in the face. Next to him, Deputy Director Huang was also dumbfounded. He looked at Li Chongqing with a gaze full of shock. After working in the system for most of his life, this was the first time he made a mistake. He didn't think that the guy he thought was the most ordinary would have such a big background. It seems that I have to contact Jiang Tao more in the future, and let him be the middleman. If I can use Li Chongqing to build a relationship with Principal Chen, then I'll be able to achieve great success in this school. Thinking of this, Deputy Director Huang's eyes became hot. Mr. Li, since Vice Principal Yang is willing to give me face, then you can continue teaching tomorrow. If the students don't fight, they won't become talents. If there's anything else, just call me directly. With me here, no one in Qingzhou University will dare to do anything to you. After he finished speaking, Chen Ligua glanced at Vice Principal Yang's seat. This casual glance scared Vice Principal Yang so much that his legs started to tremble. Chen Ligua's words were clearly a warning to him, and at the same time, it also showed his attitude. Mr. Chu also asked me to give you something. It's in my office. Please wait a moment, I'll go and get it for you. No need, I'll go with you, Li Chongqing said. Then the two of them walked out of the office under the awe of Deputy Director Huang and Vice Principal Yang. The moment the office door closed, Vice Principal Yang seemed to have been drained of all his strength. With a plop sound, he fell into the chair and wiped the cold sweat on his head. Even Principal Chen used the honorific you when speaking. What kind of ancestor did he provoke? Chapter 20. Chen Ligua and Chen Ligua arrived at the principal's office. Along the way, Chen Ligua curiously looked at Li Chongqing. No matter how he looked at him, he couldn't see anything special about this ordinary young man. However, because of his teacher's instructions on the phone, he was still very respectful to Li Chongqing. He opened the drawer of the office and took out a car key and handed it to Li Chongqing. This is the limited edition Rolls-Royce that Elder Chu asked me to give you. It's parked in the parking lot of D area below the school. Li Chongqing nodded and didn't say anything. He put away the key. Chu Yaotian was originally his subordinate. It could be said that everything he had now was given to him by Li Chongqing. Although this car was precious, it was nothing compared to Chu Yaotian's assets. Seeing Li Chongqing accept the car key, from the beginning to the end, his face didn't change at all. Chen Ligua felt more and more that he couldn't see through him. The young man in front of him was dressed plainly, and there was nothing special about him. However, this state of mind was something that ordinary people couldn't achieve. After putting the car key in his pocket, Li Chongqing left the principal's office. As soon as he returned to the dormitory, he saw Jiang Tao talking about something. Seeing Li Chongqing come in, Yang Fan immediately said, "Lao Si, you came back just in time." Jiang Tao said that he wanted to go out and play later. He also asked sister-in-law to introduce her best friend to us. Looking at Yang Fan and Zhang Xiaofeng's excited appearance, Li Chongqing wanted to refuse. However, since he wanted to experience the life of an ordinary student, he should try his best to integrate with them. Therefore, he changed the words that were on the tip of his tongue to, "Okay, anyway, it's boring to stay in the dormitory. It's good to go out and play." Hearing Li Chongqing's words, Jiang Tao and the other two revealed a smile. After a day of getting along, they could see that Li Chongqing wasn't a person who liked to be lively. They were afraid that Li Chongqing would refuse. Like I said, although Lao Si doesn't like to talk much, he's a typical quiet but passionate person, Yang Fan said. In that case, let's set off now. Jiang Tao's girlfriend and the three girls from the dormitory were already waiting in the cold drink shop at the entrance of the school. Thus, the few of them left the dormitory and headed straight to the cold drink shop. When they entered the cold drink shop, they immediately saw 4 young and beautiful girls by the window. When one of the women saw Jiang Tao, she immediately stood up and hugged Jiang Tao's arm with a sweet expression. Needless to say, it was Jiang Tao's girlfriend, Suing. Suing was dressed very fashionably. She wore hot pants and tight-fitting half-sleeves, outlining her wonderful figure. She was definitely a beauty, above the standard line. Hello everyone, these are my 3 brothers, Zhang Xiaofeng, Yang Fan, and Li Chongqing. Jiang Tao was obviously familiar with the girls as he introduced them with a smile. Chen Wan, Hao Ting. Su Ying took the initiative to introduce Li Chongqing and the other two. When she introduced the third one, the girl revealed a look of excitement. So it's you. Li Chongqing's face also showed some surprise. It turned out that the girl was none other than Zhang Mengmeng, the girl who pulled him into the Go Club on the playground in the morning. You know each other. Su Ying revealed a look of surprise. Jiang Tao and the others were even more surprised. They thought that fourth brother, who seemed to be silent, actually had a relationship with Zhang Mengmeng, the most beautiful girl in Su Ying's dormitory. We met on the playground in the afternoon. Zhang Mengmeng hurriedly explained. Chen Wan, the girl who went to the playground with Zhang Mengmeng in the morning, was also surprised. I remember it now. You're the fierce guy who blew up the football. Blew up the football? Jiang Tao and the others were puzzled. Even Su Ying and Hao Ting were puzzled. Chen Wan explained. Zhang Mengmeng and I wandered around the playground in the morning to see if there were any classmates who could be recruited into the Go Club. We happened to meet Li Chongqing, so Mengmeng wanted to pull him into the club. Who knew that a football would fly over when we were talking? This guy actually stretched out his hand and punched the football. What? Hearing Chen Wan's words, everyone's eyes widened. Especially Jiang Tao, who looked at Li Chongqing from head to toe and exclaimed, Are you kidding me? Fourth brother, you look so weak, but it turns out that you're so fierce. It was probably a stroke of luck, like a blind cat running into a dead mouse. Hearing Li Chongqing's explanation, everyone nodded thoughtfully. Indeed, blowing up the football with one's fist was not something an ordinary person could do. However, under special circumstances, there was a 1 in 10,000 chance that such a phenomenon would happen. So, fourth brother, you and the beauty Zhang Mengmeng are really fated to be together. Yang Fan winked at Li Chongqing, meaning that he would leave the girl to him. However, at this time, Chen Wan said half-jokingly, Our Mengmeng standards are very high. Even if you're not rich, you should at least be a social elite. Otherwise, you'd better give up. She had been observing Jiang Tao's group of 4 since they came in. There was no doubt that Jiang Tao was handsome, young, and rich. He was an ideal husband. Unfortunately, he was taken by Su Ying. The remaining Zhang Xiaofeng and Yang Fan were much more ordinary. They didn't match the beauty of their dormitory. As for Li Chongqing, he was the most ordinary among them. Especially his dressing was even more outdated. He didn't look like a 21st century college student at all. Her words were actually to remind Li Chongqing not to be a toad lusting after a swan's meat. They sat down and ordered a few glasses of juice. Jiang Tao and Su Ying were discussing where to play in a while Zhang Xiaofeng and Yang Fan took the initiative to talk to Hao Ting and Su Ying. However, they clearly felt that the two girls' attitude was relatively cold. Obviously, other than Jiang Tao, the other 3 boys in dormitory 305 didn't enter their eyes. Li Chongqing sat there and stared at Zhang Mengmeng. Hey! Don't tell me you've taken a fancy to our Mengmeng? Chen Wan frowned. Our Mengmeng has at least 800 suitors. Your chances are really slim. Chen Wan mercilessly struck another blow. Just now, she had already made her words very clear. She didn't expect this toad to not realize it at all. Zhang Mengmeng also felt a little uncomfortable being stared at by Li Chongqing. Her face was slightly red. What are you looking at? Indeed, it was very impolite to stare at a girl like this. Even Zhang Xiaofeng and the other 2 were a little embarrassed. They didn't expect that their new dormitory's 4th brother, who looked quite honest, would be so direct. Although Zhang Mengmeng's magnificent figure was very attractive, he shouldn't be so blatant. What they didn't know was that Li Chongqing had lived for countless years. He was proficient in astronomy, geography, poetry, and song. He was especially proficient in the art of observing aura. When he came in just now, he found that Zhang Mingming's forehead was shrouded in a black aura. This was a bad omen, indicating that a disaster would happen to her today. Student Zhang Mingming, I see a bad omen on your body. What? The atmosphere in the room suddenly froze. Zhang Mingming's face instantly turned red. She spat, shameless. Chapter 21. Fourth brother, it's not good for you to be so direct, right? Jiang Tao awkwardly cleared his throat and said. Chen Wan's face was gloomy. I didn't expect this guy to be not only a toad, but also so thick-skinned. In her heart, she had already defined Li Chongqing as wretched, shameless, obscene, and a series of unsightly labels. Yang Fan, who was sitting next to him, hurriedly and quietly kicked Li Chongqing's foot. Who knew that Li Chongqing didn't seem to understand what he meant, and still said seriously, I'm telling the truth, she does have a bad omen today. Jiang Tao, Su Ying, Yang Fan. Seeing the four girls' faces turn dark, Li Chongqing knew that they misunderstood him, and hurriedly explained, I said that I can read people's faces. Zhang Mengmeng is unlucky today. I'm afraid she will encounter something bad. Hearing Li Chongqing's words, Chen Wan coldly snorted. Zhang Mengmeng was skeptical. Jiang Tao secretly gave Li Chongqing a thumbs up. Brother, good job, you can even make this right. I say, friend, you really know how to talk nonsense, you can even read people's faces. Why don't you show me what will happen to me today? Zhang Mengmeng was the youngest in Su Ying's dormitory, and also the most heartless one, and was very kind. Su Ying and the others all treated her as a little sister, so at this moment, Hao Ting was quite indignant for Zhang Mengmeng. After Hao Ting finished speaking, the other two girls also looked at Li Chongqing with an unfriendly expression. The implication was, let's see how you're going to make this right. Jiang Tao and the others gave Li Chongqing a brother, you're on your own expression. Zhang Xiaofeng and Yang Fan shook their heads. Obviously, Li Chongqing had offended the four girls in Su Ying's dormitory today. Originally, they wanted to rely on their relationship with Su Ying to get closer to her and solve the problem of being single. Although the probability was not high, at least there was hope. Now, even that little hope was destroyed by Li Chongqing. Being stared at by everyone, Li Chongqing was not nervous at all. He just looked up and down at Hao Ting and said seriously, according to my observation, your face is pale, and you have dark circles around your eyes. Today you have a bloody disaster, so it's not suitable to wear short. Hearing Li Chongqing's words, Jiang Tao, who had just picked up the cup, spat out the orange juice in his mouth. Yang Fan and Zhang Xiaofeng's expressions. As for Hao Ting, her face. What kind of *T theory is this? It's not appropriate to wear shorts when there's a bloody disaster ahead? Are you King kidding me? Chen Wan, who had long disliked Li Chongqing, slammed her cup on the table. If it wasn't for Jiang Tao's face, she would have already flipped out. This bastard had gone too far. He was obviously talking nonsense, but he acted like it was true. If it wasn't for the fact that his words were too outrageous, he would have been able to get away with it. Jiang Tao's girlfriend, Su Ying, looked at Jiang Tao helplessly and thought, your dormitory buddies are really weird. Hao Ting was so angry that she gritted her teeth. This is simply a hooligan and a swindler. This is unforgivable. I'm just telling the truth. Why are you looking at me like that? Li Chongqing looked innocent. He pointed at Chen Wan and said, and you also have a bloody disaster today. Fortunately, you're not wearing shorts. Seeing that Chen Wan was about to flip out, Jiang Tao hurriedly stood up to smooth things over. Chongqing was just joking and wanted to adjust the atmosphere. Let's discuss where to go next. Phew. Hao Ting exhaled a long breath and slowly loosened her clenched fists. Zhang Mengmeng, who had a good impression of Li Chongqing, had a complicated look in her eyes. As for Chen Wan, who didn't like Li Chongqing since the beginning, her eyes were filled with disgust as she muttered, Barren hills and turbulent rivers produce unruly people. I'll go to the bathroom first. Hao Ting suddenly stood up and left the table. Wait for me, I'll go too. Chen Wan followed closely behind Hao Ting. Li Chongqing, you're a bit too much. After her two best friends left, Zhang Mengmeng opened her mouth and said, Yeah, Hao Ting and Chen Wan are angry. We were supposed to go out and have fun this afternoon, but you ruined it. Su Ying's tone was also filled with resentment. Although Jiang Tao and the other two didn't speak, their mood was obviously not good. This bastard, hooligan. In the bathroom, Hao Ting's face was filled with anger. If I knew that Jiang Tao's dorm was filled with such trash, I wouldn't have come out no matter what. That Li Chongqing is the most disgusting. First, he stared at Meng Meng and then he talked nonsense. He said that Ting Ting, you would have a bloody disaster, and that you shouldn't wear shorts. That bastard, he was clearly flirting with you. If it weren't for Su Ying's face, I would have poured a cup of juice on his face. Chen Wan looked like a well-bred young lady, cultured and elegant, but her temper was the most explosive among the four girls. Forget it, he's a bastard, there's no need to be angry with him. Hao Ting washed her face in front of the bathroom mirror, calmed down, and then touched up her makeup. Just as she put the makeup in her bag and was about to take a step, a painful expression suddenly appeared on her face as she squatted down. What happened? Seeing Hao Ting's appearance, Chen Wan hurriedly asked. I think I'm on my period. Hao Ting slowed down and barely stood up from the floor with the help of the sink, but then she saw a trace of blood seeping out from her thigh. Bloody disaster, you shouldn't wear shorts. Hao Ting and Chen Wan simultaneously thought of Li Chongqing's words. That bastard couldn't have been right, could he? Hao Ting's face was full of surprise. How is that possible? He also said that I'll also have a bloody disaster. It can't be that I'm on my period, right? Just as Chen Wan's voice fell, her face instantly became strange. What's wrong? Hao Ting was puzzled. Mine is also here. Chapter 22. 10 minutes later, Hao Ting and Chen Wan walked out with flushed faces. Especially the way they looked at Li Chongqing was very strange. What's wrong? Why did you take so long to go to the bathroom? Su Ying asked. Zhang Mengmeng also showed a curious look. Chen Wan crawled to the two girls' ears and whispered a few words. Suddenly, the way the two girls looked at Li Chongqing changed. Especially Su Ying's face became serious. Chongqing, you just said that Zhang Mengmeng has a bad omen today. When she said the word bad omen, her face couldn't help but blush slightly, but she still continued, Are you sure? Jiang Tao and the other two, who were originally in low morale, suddenly raised their heads. They didn't understand why Su Ying suddenly asked such a question. Of course. Li Chongqing nodded. My fortune-telling accuracy has always been very high. After saying that, he looked at Hao Ting and Chen Wan with a faint smile. I think the two of you should have a deep understanding, right? Surprisingly, Chen Wan and Hao Ting's face turned red at the same time, and then they softly said, Yes. Jiang Tao and the other two were even more surprised. Why did the two girls' attitudes change so much after going to the bathroom? Zhang Mingming's face was a little pale, and she blurted out, How bad is my omen? 36D. Zhang Mengmeng. Hearing Li Chongqing's words, Zhang Mengmeng wanted to open Li Chongqing's head to see what was inside. However, at this moment, she already regarded Li Chongqing as a master, so she naturally didn't dare to do that. She could only take a deep breath and whisper, Is there a way to resolve it? Follow me, I'll help you resolve it. Jiang Tao and the other two were completely dumbfounded. They couldn't figure out what had happened, but one thing was for sure. Today's gathering wouldn't be ruined because of what Li Chongqing had said at that time. Why don't we go to the bar to play later? Jiang Tao suggested. Okay. Su Ying was the first to raise her hand in agreement. Zhang Mengmeng naturally had no objections. Although she was skeptical of Li Changxing's words, she would rather believe it than not. She felt that it was safer to stay by Li Changxing's side. After finalizing the deal, the few of them went out and hailed 2 taxis, rushing to the bar street in Qingzhou. Although Jiang Tao had a BMW 7 Series, it was impossible for so many people to sit in it. Moreover, when they arrived at the bar, they would naturally have to drink. At that time, they would have to trouble a designated driver, so it would be much more convenient to take a taxi. This bar is called Sound of the Night. It's the property of a big shot in Qingzhou. I have a VIP card there. All the expenses are 15% off, so everyone can play freely. After they got off the taxi, Jiang Tao introduced them as they walked. "Hubby, you're the best." Suing kissed Jiang Tao's face. Behind him, Hao Ting and Chen Wan's eyes flashed with a strange light. Such a high-quality resource like Jiang Tao was obviously their hunting target. Unfortunately, Suing had beaten them to it. Yang Fan and Zhang Xiaofeng were obviously not their cup of tea. As for Li Changxing, even if he knew physiognomy, he was at best a charlatan. They wouldn't consider him. As soon as they entered the bar, Jiang Tao showed his VIP card and was immediately arranged to the VIP area. After sitting down in the private room, Jiang Tao waved his hand and ordered a king-set meal. All kinds of drinks were served one after another. Jiang Tao and Suing were currently in the honeymoon period. After sitting down, they were completely immersed in the small world of the two, whispering in each other's ears. Suing directly sat on Jiang Tao's lap and kissed Jiang Tao's face from time to time in the dim corner, completely ignoring the existence of the others. Zhang Xiaofeng and Yang Fan respectively attacked Hao Ting and Chen Wan, trying to please them. However, the 2 women were obviously cold and kept a certain distance from the 2. Zhang Mengmeng believed Li Changxing's words and took the initiative to sit beside Li Changxing. She poured wine and lit cigarettes for Li Changxing, serving him meticulously like a little wife. This made Chen Wan and Zhang Xiaofeng wonder if Li Changxing deliberately made up a lie to deceive Zhang Mengmeng. "Li Changxing, do you really know physiognomy?" After Zhang Mengmeng poured Li Changxing a few glasses of wine, her eyes revealed a bit of craftiness as she deliberately pretended to be casual and asked. "Of course." Li Changxing cooperated and pretended to be a bit drunk. Although this girl looked innocent and sweet, she had a cunning side to her. "What kind of ominous omen is it?" Zhang Mengmeng was obviously a bit nervous after hearing Li Changxing's words. "Black with purple edges." Li Changxing glanced at Zhang Mengmeng's body and casually said. Zhang Mengmeng's body stiffened and her face revealed a bit of anger. How do you know? If I said I guessed it, would you believe me?" "I'll believe you, big head." Zhang Mengmeng felt that she must have been deceived by this bastard. She fiercely glared at Li Changxing and then stood up to change seats with Chen Wan. However, at this moment, a drunk guy seemed to be attracted by Zhang Mengmeng's appearance. He emitted a green light as he walked over and directly reached out to grab Zhang Mengmeng's arm. "Little girl, accompany this big brother for a drink. How about this big brother give you this amount?" After saying that, he stretched out 5 fingers. 50,000 per glass. Zhang Mengmeng panicked when her wrist was grabbed by the other party. Jiang Tao and the other 2 were stunned for a moment and immediately stood up from their seats. Especially Jiang Tao, who had already clenched his fists and was ready to teach this guy a lesson. Of course, he had to be brave in front of a beauty. Seeing Jiang Tao and the other's posture, the drunk guy seemed to have a trace of sobriety. However, he did not let go of Zhang Mengmeng's arm and sneered, "Little bastard, if you dare to touch me, I'll make sure you won't be able to walk out of this bar today." As his voice fell, Jiang Tao was about to make a move when he heard a burst of footsteps. 7 or 8 burly young men surrounded them with an aggressive aura. Their arms were tattooed with messy patterns. At first glance, one could tell that they were not good people. Although Jiang Tao was a rich second generation, He was still a student after all. Upon seeing such a lineup, his raised fist could no longer fall down. Zhang Xiaofeng and Yang Fan were also at a loss. They were just children from ordinary working families. They had never fought from elementary school to college. How could they dare to fight with these little gangsters in society? Su Ying and the other girls' faces turned pale. Zhang Mengmeng wanted to break free from the other party's hand, but she was not as strong as the other party. Beauty, accompany Big Brother for a night. Big Brother will take good care of you. The man let out an unpleasant laugh. His greasy face was extremely disgusting. Help me! Zhang Mengmeng also panicked. She glanced at Jiang Tao and the others, and finally looked at Li Chongqing as if asking for help. Only then did the greasy man notice Li Chongqing, who was sitting there inconspicuously. Yo, kid, are you trying to be a hero and save the beauty? I'll lend you some guts. Try touching me. Among the few people, the tallest Zhang Xiaofeng and the strongest Jiang Tao did not dare to speak. The other party naturally did not take Li Chongqing, who was the smallest and looked the most harmless, seriously. However, as soon as his voice fell, smack, it was a very crisp sound. Then, everyone was shocked to see blood flowing from the greasy man's head. He then squatted on the ground with his hands covering his head. Li Chongqing was holding a broken wine bottle in his hand. Wow, Big Brother, your head is so hard. It even broke the wine bottle. Amazing. The greasy man. Everyone. Chapter 23. The greasy man squatted on the ground after being hit by Li Chongqing with a beer bottle. He covered his head and made a painful sound. After a full 3 minutes, he slowly raised his head, revealing a face covered with blood. The several women sitting next to Li Chongqing were so scared that their faces turned pale. Boy, I'm going to kill you. The greasy man gnashed his teeth. As his voice fell, the several young men behind him approached with gloomy faces. These people were the punks on this street. Fighting and fighting had always been their specialty. Even if someone stared at them a few times, it could cause a bloody incident, not to mention that Li Chongqing had beaten up one of their men. You go first, leave this to me. Li Chongqing turned around and shouted at Zhang Mengmeng and the other women who were trembling with fear. Then, he took a step forward with a very imposing manner. Surprisingly, the girls did not immediately run away. It was not because they were of high quality and were willing to accompany this boy who dared to stand up for them, but because just a moment ago, Jiang Tao had quietly sent a text message to them, telling them not to worry and that reinforcements would come soon. Although the girls were still afraid, they finally had some confidence in their hearts. Cut the crap, come at me together. Li Chongqing picked up another bottle of wine from the table. He had the aura of someone who wouldn't bat an eyelid even if a mountain collapsed in front of him. Boy, you've got guts. How dare you hit our brother Gua? Why don't you ask around about our brother Gua's name on this street? How about this? As long as you pay 100,000 yuan for the medical expenses and let the 4 girls stay with us for one night, we'll write off what happened today. What do you think? One of the men went up and helped the greasy man up and said with a sneer. Obviously, this greasy man was their accomplice, but he was not their leader. Otherwise, when their big brother was beaten, how could they dare to bargain here? In fact, this greasy man was a small boss on this street. He was in cahoots with them and could play together. Now that he was beaten up, as the Brotherhood of the Underworld, of course, they had to stand up for him. The most important thing was that they could take advantage of this to make a big profit. How can 100,000 yuan be enough? How about I give you 1 million yuan? Li Chongqing laughed. What do you mean? The young man was taken aback, unable to react. Why would someone take the initiative to raise the price? 100,000 yuan is for this damn fatty's medical expenses. The 8 of you can add another 800,000 yuan. The extra 100,000 yuan is my reward to you. As soon as Li Chongqing said this, The 8 young men's faces immediately showed anger. Brat, are you King looking for death? I think you won't cry until you see the coffin. The young man pulled out a dagger from his trouser pocket, his eyes flashing fiercely. The reason why these street thugs were able to gain a foothold was because they were ruthless. They took out their knives not to scare people, but to really dare to do it. When the women behind him saw that a knife had been used, they all revealed a look of fear. Wait a minute, Jiang Tao suddenly said. And who are you? The leading young man sneered. The dagger in his hand flashed with a cold light, reminding everyone that he was definitely a dangerous person. I'm the son of the chairman of the Jiang group. I know Brother Xiong from this street. Just now, my brother was a little ruthless. I'm willing to pay 100,000 yuan as compensation. How about we call it quits? Brother Xiong. Hearing Jiang Tao's words, the other party's face was shocked, revealing a bit of fear. Brother Xiong is indeed my senior. Since you know Brother Xiong, I'll give you face and take out 100,000 yuan. Then, let your brother apologize to Brother Guo. Then we'll call it quits. Hearing the other party's words, Su Ying and the others breathed a sigh of relief. After all, they were women. Seeing that they didn't need to fight, they felt relieved. This was the advantage of being rich. If it weren't for Jiang Tao's willingness to pay 100,000 yuan and that Brother Xiong, Li Chongqing would have been hospitalized. For a moment, Su Ying looked at Jiang Tao with eyes full of infatuation. Lao Si, you apologize to him. I'll pay 100,000 yuan. How about it? Jiang Tao looked at Li Chongqing. The other's eyes also fell on Li Chongqing. In everyone's view, Jiang Tao was willing to take out 100,000 yuan to settle the matter. Li Chongqing was just apologizing, which was a trivial matter. Unexpectedly, Li Chongqing gently shook his head. Apologize? He doesn't deserve it. As soon as Li Chongqing's words came out, everyone was shocked. Chen Wan couldn't help but angrily say, Li Chongqing, are you crazy? If you don't want to live, don't implicate us. Indeed, these young people were not easy to deal with. Jiang Tao had used his relationship with them and paid to settle the matter, but at this critical moment, Li Chongqing did this. Wasn't this completely infuriating the other party? Sure enough, the young man sneered twice, and his slightly narrowed eyes revealed a bit of cold light. Boy, I think you won't cry until you see the coffin. If I don't teach you a lesson today, how can I, Ah Huang, stand on this street? Originally, 100,000 yuan was not a small amount for them. They could squander it for a long time. However, the most important thing in the underworld was face. Li Chongqing didn't give him face, which was like touching his reverse scale. This time, it wouldn't be so easy to be kind. You're the one who won't cry until you see the coffin. Some people don't know you're their father if you don't *ck their mother. As soon as Li Chongqing's words came out, everyone was dumbfounded. They looked at him as if they were looking at a madman. Sigh. Lao Si, you're leading us into a fire pit. The science guy, Zhang Xiaofeng, was so scared that his legs trembled. If there was still room for reconciliation before, then his words were forcing the other party to fight to the death. What a hothead! A big stupid donkey! Su Ying and the other girls couldn't wait to go up and slap Li Chongqing. If these guys were really forced into a corner, they would do anything, especially the girls, who were the most dangerous. Ha! Boy, you've got guts. But let's see if you'll still be so stubborn later. The leading young man was so angry that he laughed and clenched the dagger in his hand. It's over now. Su Ying's face was full of disappointment. She knew that something bad was about to happen. This boy doesn't have any self-awareness at all. He's just a brute. He could have turned big problems into small ones and small ones into nothing. But now, he angered the other party. Isn't he courting death? Chen Wan snorted coldly. She already disliked Li Chongqing, and now she hated him even more. Zhang Mengmeng was so scared that she was about to cry. She looked at Jiang Tao and said, Jiang Tao, think of a way. Think of a way. Jiang Tao also showed a bitter smile on his face and said angrily, I was willing to pay 100,000 yuan, but Changxing's head was hot. He insisted on going against the other party. He's so powerful. Let him deal with it himself. Although he was a little angry at Li Changxing for not knowing what was good for him, Jiang Tao still looked at the leading young man and said, Big brother, I'll pay 200,000 yuan. My brother is immature. Look, let him go. 200,000 yuan? The young man's eyes lit up. Okay, give me 200,000 yuan and you guys can leave. But this boy, even if you give me 2 million yuan, I'll still cripple him. What should we do? Zhang Mengmeng was so anxious that she was about to cry. Jiang Tao was also dumbfounded. He was stunned and then said, 300,000 yuan, brother. I'll give you 300,000 yuan. How about you treat him like a fart and let him go? Unexpectedly, the young man glared at him with a fierce look. He pointed the dagger at Jiang Tao and said fiercely, I said, even if it's 2 million yuan, I'll still cripple this boy. Don't you understand? Give me the money and get the hell out of here. Otherwise, not only will I not give face to Brother Xiong, I'll also clean you up. After the young man spoke, several people trembled subconsciously. Su Ying hesitated for a moment and whispered to Jiang Tao, How about we leave? Li Changxing just lived in your dormitory yesterday. It's not worthwhile to put yourself in danger for someone you just met 2 days ago. Hao Ting and Chen Wan also nodded like chicks pecking rice, expressing their agreement with Su Ying's idea. They were not so noble to accompany a guy they just met for less than 2 hours to live and die together. And in their opinion, all of this was caused by Li Changxing himself. He deserved to die. What did it have to do with them? Jiang Tao hesitated. He and Li Changxing had known each other for less than 2 days. It was obviously unrealistic to say that they had deep feelings for each other. But he couldn't abandon his companions and run for his life. At this time, the leading young man had lost his patience. He grabbed the dagger in his hand and stabbed it toward Li Changxing's chest. Go to hell, boy! Chapter 24. Clank. The sound of collision rang out. Zhang Mengmeng and the other girls subconsciously turned their heads away, unable to bear to look. However, when they turned their heads, they saw a shocking scene. The leading youth's dagger did not hit Li Changxing. Instead, the wine bottle in Li Changxing's hand hit his wrist, and the dagger was sent flying. That was close. Jiang Tao witnessed the whole process and breathed a sigh of relief. F***ck, I don't believe that I can't kill you. Everyone, let's attack together and beat him up. The leading youth swung his painful wrist with a ferocious look in his eyes. He called out to his companions behind him. Some picked up stools, some grabbed wine bottles and rushed toward Li Changxing. These gangsters often fought and were very skilled and experienced. At this moment they were very fierce. Su Ying and the other girls were already screaming in fear. Zhang Xiaofeng and Yang Fan were also scared and hid to the side. Only Jiang Tao could be considered calm, but his trembling hands showed the fear in his heart at this moment. A bunch of trash. Li Changxing was not a good-tempered person. When he saw that the other party was about to gang up on him, he did not hesitate to knee the leader of the young men. The huge force made this guy, who was almost 1.8 meters tall, directly fly back, knocking the 3 guys who rushed up to him to the ground together. At the same time, Li Changxing raised the wine bottle in his hand and smashed it on the head of a long-haired guy who rushed up. Immediately, the blood mixed with the wine flowed down the man's hair, creating a scarlet color. The remaining 3 people were shocked by Li Changxing's fierce method. Zhang Mengmeng widened her eyes and was in high spirits. What are you looking at? Come at me if you don't like it. Li Changxing let out a loud roar. His imposing manner resembled that of Zhang Ida when he scared off 100,000 Chao soldiers at Changban Slope. The remaining 3 youths looked at each other and rushed up almost at the same time. People who relied on violence for a living would not be so easily scared off. But soon, they regretted their actions because this guy who looked short and thin was really ferocious. When he fought, he was too abnormal. A single punch was enough to knock someone unconscious, and a knee strike was enough to send someone flying 2 meters into the air. The ferocity of his attacks was enough to make one's hair stand on end. Smashed beer bottles. He directly stabbed the palm of a guy who had been swept to the ground by him. In the blink of an eye, the 3 people who had rushed up were completely crippled. They lay on the ground, unable to get up. As for the 3 fellows who had been knocked down, they didn't have the courage to take another step forward when they got up in a sorry state. Just as they were about to help the leader up, Li Chongqing rushed up and swept his leg, knocking down 2 of them. The remaining one was so scared that he turned around and ran away, but Li Chongqing grabbed his hair from behind and pulled him to the ground. His face hit the ground hard, and when he turned his head over, his face was already covered in blood. He cried and begged for mercy loudly. Only then did Li Chongqing let go of his hair, picked up the wine glass on the table next to him, and poured himself a glass of wine to rinse his mouth. That posture was very much like a Big Brother's style in a Hong Kong movie in the 1980s. Su Ying and the other women were already trembling in fear, while Jiang Tao and the other 2 men were boiling with excitement. This was simply comparable to a movie with every punch hitting the flesh. This Lao Si was really too fierce. Get out of here. Li Chongqing put the wine glass on the table. The sound of the wine glass hitting the table almost scared the hooligans out of their wit. In the end, they rolled and crawled away. Jiang Tao and the others only reacted when the hooligans were out of sight. At this moment, Li Chongqing's image in their hearts was comparable to a superhero in a movie. Especially Zhang Mengmeng, whose eyes were full of little stars. Li Chongqing, how about I treat you to a movie? What kind of movie do you like to watch? Well, Li Chongqing scratched his head. I like to watch movies that only have action and no dialogue. From the beginning to the end, only 2 characters can play the role. Zhang Mengmeng. I'm talking about a cat and a mouse. Are you thinking the wrong way? Li Chongqing glanced at Zhang Mengmeng's heavy breasts with a completely appreciative look and muttered, "A human weapon." Zhang Mengmeng's cheeks suddenly turned red and she said angrily, "Go to hell." However, there was obviously a complacent look in her eyes. Okay, you 2 don't talk nonsense. Let's get out of here quickly. Those people are all hooligans on this street. There may be someone behind them. Be careful that they find someone to take revenge on. Although Li Chongqing showed off his skills and beat those people to a pulp, Chen Wan was still a little worried. Yes, let's leave. Zhang Mengmeng also nodded in agreement. Although Li Chongqing can fight, he can fight 8 people, but can he fight 18 or 28? They often watch Hong Kong movies where hundreds or thousands of people fight. A hero is not omnipotent. It's okay. The people I called are already here. Jiang Tao suddenly smiled. Everyone followed his gaze and saw 7 or 8 strong men in black coming in. The leader was a middle-aged man. He walked over and respectfully bowed to Jiang Tao. Young master, you said that someone threatened your safety. Where is he? I will deal with him. When the middle-aged man spoke, he had a strong aura. Obviously, he was not an ordinary person. They have already left, but it is very likely that they will find someone to take revenge. You guys go to the table and sit down. I will call you if there is anything. Yes, young master. The middle-aged man's aura was very strong, but he was very respectful to Jiang Tao. Seeing this scene, the girl's eyes suddenly lit up. Compared to Li Chongqing, although he can fight, he can't be compared to this young master. When everyone saw that Jiang Tao had such powerful men to protect him, they immediately felt relieved. Jiang Tao's several subordinates went to a table in the corner and sat down. Suing suddenly hugged Jiang Tao's arm and said coquettishly, "Husband, you are so powerful. You looked so handsome just now." Hao Ting and Chen Wan also focused their gazes on Jiang Tao. As for the tall Li Chongqing, they automatically ignored him. After all, no matter how good he was at fighting, he was at most a bodyguard. As long as one had money, how many bodyguards couldn't be hired? Jiang Tao's face showed a bit of pride. The admiring eyes of the girls greatly satisfied his vanity. Just now, he was envious of Li Chongqing for having such good skills. He thought that he should also learn some kung fu, so that he could be a hero and save the beauty at the critical moment. But now, he changed his mind. Not to mention that learning kung fu was difficult, the most important thing was that no matter how good he was at fighting, how could it be compared to the halo brought by his identity as a rich second generation? Chapter 25. Everyone sat down again. The waiter came forward to clean up the mess on the ground, and the scene was noisy again. Su Ying had seen Jiang Tao's power and prestige. At this moment, she hugged Jiang Tao's arm and refused to let go. Obviously, she had made up her mind to stick to Jiang Tao, the rich second generation. Hao Ting and Chen Wan became more and more indifferent to Zhang Xiaofeng and Yang Fan. These two people couldn't be compared with the brilliant Jiang Tao. Even compared to Li Chongqing, who could fight, they seemed to be inferior. If it weren't for the fact that there were only 4 men present, the 2 women wouldn't have bothered to talk to them. However, after what happened just now, Zhang Mengmeng worshipped Li Chongqing very much. She held her chin and asked Li Chongqing to tell her the story of practicing martial arts. Li Chongqing had no choice but to tell her the story of a martial arts novel he read in the library that day. The little girl's eyes lit up as she listened. Hao Ting and Chen Wan couldn't help but shake their heads. Chen Wan couldn't help but interrupt. This is clearly the story of the Heaven Sword and Dragon Saber, but the protagonist has changed from Zhang Wuji to Li Chongqing. After saying that, she thought Zhang Mengmeng would wake up, but who knew that she raised her nose and said, "Chen Wan, what nonsense are you talking about? This is clearly Li Chongqing's story that was adapted into a novel by Old Man Jean. How can you not tell the difference between real and fake?" Chen Wan, this little girl is really hopeless. She turned her head to the side angrily. "Hey, isn't this the great beauty Chen?" A man in sportswear walked over with a glass of red wine in his hand. He was handsome and sunny, comparable to those male models on TV. "It's you." Chen Wan looked up and saw the man. She smiled and took the initiative to make room for the man on the sofa she was sitting on. Zhang Xiaofeng and Yang Fan on the opposite side showed a trace of sadness at the same time. They had tried their best to persuade Chen Wan, but she was so enthusiastic after seeing this man. Her attitude was completely different. No matter how slow they were, they should have seen that Chen Wan didn't like them at all. "Student Chen, why are you here?" "What a coincidence. I was drinking with a few CEOs and listening to them talk about investment. I didn't really understand what they were talking about, so I wandered over here. I didn't expect to see you here. I'm not interested in economics, but I was born into a business family. It seems like I can only be a second-generation rich kid with no future." The other party pretended to casually glance at Chen Wan's face. Sure enough, he saw Chen Wan's eyes light up and her lips curl up slightly. Based on his experience in picking up girls, from the first time he met Chen Wan, he could tell that she had the gene of a gold digger in her bones. Since they met today, he felt that the opportunity had come. My side is filled with CEOs of companies worth tens of billions, and there are also a few rich kids in the circle. Among them, there are top students from Qingzhou University. Chen Wan, I remember you told me last time that you majored in finance. Are you interested in coming with me to get to know a few big shots? Maybe it will be good for you after you graduate. After speaking, he looked at Chen Wan with a smile, waiting for her reply. Our Qingzhou University's top student is also a second-generation rich kid. Is that Wang Dongxing from our school? Hearing Chen Wan's words, Li Chongxing shook his head. He thought that Wang Dongxing was probably lying in the hospital right now. Thinking of his punch, Wang Dongxing's arm was definitely broken. Without 3 to 5 months of rest, he wouldn't be able to come out. Hearing Chen Wan's words, Zhao Bingyu's face froze for a moment, then he smiled and said, "Yes, of course. Wang Xiao is sitting over there." Li Chongxing suddenly raised his head. He thought, is there a second Wang Dongxing in Qingzhou University? Really? Then you must introduce me to him. Chen Wan's face showed excitement. She seemed to have realized that she had lost her composure. She turned around and apologized to Li Chongxing and the others. I'm really sorry. I'll go with Mr. Zhao first. After speaking, she stood up and impatiently walked to the other side. Seeing Chen Wan leave, Jiang Tao's face was a little ugly. Originally, he said that he came out to play this time to be a matchmaker for his brothers. He didn't expect that she would be taken away halfway. Zhang Xiaofeng, I'll introduce you to another one next time. Hearing Jiang Tao's words, Zhang Xiaofeng smiled. At this time, how could he not see that Chen Wan was not interested in him at all? She looked down on him. Just now, he was secreting too much hormones. Now that he had calmed down, he was a little disappointed. Seeing Chen Wan leave, Hao Ting also stretched her neck and looked around. She didn't notice the conversation between them at all. Obviously, she was a little distracted. Chongxing, did you discover the secret of the dragon-slaying saber in the end? Zhang Mengmeng blinked her big eyes and asked. This made Li Chongxing feel a little speechless. Later, he was too lazy to make up a story and directly used the plot of the dragon-slaying saber. However, the other party seemed to really believe it. You're obsessed. There's no cure. Hao Ting just came back to her senses and shook her head. She really couldn't see how Li Chongxing attracted Zhang Mengmeng. At this moment, Chen Wan, who followed Zhao Bingyu to the other side, was dumbfounded. Because there weren't any company CEOs sitting there. They were all young people, dressed like children from rich families. However, Wang Dongxing, who she wanted to see, was not in the crowd at all. Young Master Zhao, this, Chen Wan looked at Zhao Bingyu next to her in confusion, only to see Zhao Bingyu reach out and put his arm around her shoulder. He smiled and said, Wang Xiao should have left. How about this? Since you're here, accompany us for a drink. Although Wang Dongxing's family is rich, my brothers are not bad either. Don't you want to hook up with a rich man? We are all rich men. Now, how could Chen Wan not understand that she had been deceived? She wanted to turn around and leave, but the other party directly pushed her to the sofa. What do you want to do? Chen Wan was completely flustered at this moment. She wanted to find a rich boyfriend, but her goal was to marry into a rich family. Although these people were all rich second generations, they were at most playing around. They were a group of people who didn't want to admit their mistakes after eating. How could she let herself fall into the hands of these people? She wanted to get up from the sofa and escape, but she found that she was surrounded by several people. Little girl, don't worry. Accompany me for a few drinks first. When I'm happy, you can leave. If you don't give me face, then don't blame me for not knowing how to be gentle with you. A slightly older man said with a gloomy face. His gaze made Chen Wan's heart jump. Chen Wan seems to have encountered something. Hao Ting, who had been looking over there, suddenly said anxiously, I'll go and have a look. Jiang Tao stood up and made a gesture to his subordinates in the corner. Immediately, the middle-aged man led 6 strong men and followed behind him. Let go of that girl. Jiang Tao, who had several subordinates behind him, was suddenly full of confidence and shouted loudly. I'm the son of the chairman of the Jiang group. She's my friend. Let's see who dares to touch her. After Jiang Tao finished speaking, he strode toward the opposite party. Zhang Xiaofeng and Yang Fan looked at each other. Each of them grabbed a wine bottle from the table and quickly followed behind Jiang Tao. At that time, Li Changxing was the only one in the limelight, which made them feel quite regretful. Now that they had Jiang Tao's support, the two of them also wanted to show off in front of the beauty. However, just as Jiang Tao approached, the gloomy young man who was hugging Chen Wan's neck came over and directly kicked Jiang Tao's lower abdomen, kicking him to the ground. The several strong men behind Jiang Tao were about to make a move when they heard the other party coldly say, "Does the Jiang group want to go against the Qin family? I'm Master Qin's nephew." Master Qin. When this name came out, the several strong men who were originally angry felt as if a bucket of cold water was poured over their heads. They were instantly stunned. Zhang Xiaofeng and Yang Fan's hands trembled, and the wine bottle fell to the ground with a clang sound. After being slapped, Jiang Tao, who was furious, held his stomach and cursed, "Kill them for me. Who does Master Qin think he is? My father is Jiang." After saying that, he suddenly froze. "You said you're Master Qin's nephew. Which Master Qin?" Zhao Bingyu, who had tricked Chen Wan, sneered and said, "In Qinzhou, how many Master Qins are there?" In an instant, everyone present was dumbfounded. Master Qin, Qin Hao, was a truly powerful figure in Qinzhou. He could cover the sky with one hand. Who dared to provoke him? Chapter 26. This time, Jiang Tao was completely at a loss. Although he was a rich second generation, his family was like an ant in front of an elephant when compared to the Qin group. How could he dare to go against Qin Hao's nephew? "So? Do you still want to meddle in other people's business?" Young Master Qin looked at Jiang Tao with a sneer. Jiang Tao's voice trembled as he spoke. "Young Master Qin, screw you." Young Master Qin kicked Jiang Tao's body and made him fall to the ground. At the same time, he pressed his foot on Jiang Tao's face. "Let me ask you, do you still want to meddle in other people's business?" Jiang Tao's face was filled with fear, but he still said, "Chen Wan is my friend. Young Master Qin, please be merciful." "Expensive your mother." Young Master Qin grabbed Jiang Tao's hair and slapped him. The sound was crisp and clear, which scared Zhang Xiaofeng and Yang Fan. The women were trembling with fear. Jiang Tao's face was swollen with 5 clear palm prints. His eyes were filled with humiliation, but he didn't dare to say anything. He just begged in a low voice, "Please be merciful." Young Master Qin snorted coldly and ordered his subordinates, "Bring the 3 women here. Get the men to kneel at the side." After he finished speaking, a few bodyguards immediately walked out from behind him and walked towards Li Changxing and the others. Zhang Mingming's face was also filled with fear. She had never seen such a big scene. Su Ying was so scared that her hands were shaking. "What should we do? He is Qin Hao's nephew. We are finished." Hao Ting was even more dumbfounded. At that time, when she saw Zhao Bingyu bringing Chen Wan over, she was envious and wanted to meet some business tycoons. Now, she was scared out of her wits. If she fell into the hands of these rich people, her reputation would definitely be ruined. "Li Changxing, think of a way to save us." Zhang Mengmeng grabbed Li Changxing's arm as if she was grasping at the last straw. "Save? How?" Su Ying shook her head. She didn't think Li Changxing could save them. It was true that Li Changxing knew some martial arts, but the other party was Qin Hao's nephew. Qin Hao was the local tyrant in Qinzhou. He could cover the sky with one hand and no one dared to offend him. At this moment, Qin Xian's subordinates walked over. Su Ying and the others didn't dare to resist and obediently allowed themselves to be brought to Qin Xian. As for Zhang Xiaofeng, Yang Fan, and Jiang Tao, they were all kneeling in a row. Jiang Tao was still begging Qin Xian to let him and the girls go. However, every time he begged for mercy, Qin Xian would slap him across the face. His entire face was swollen. Yang Fan and Zhang Xiaofeng lowered their heads as their bodies trembled. They didn't even dare to speak. The eyes of Su Ying and the other women were filled with despair. Li Chongqing was standing next to Zhang Mengmeng. Zhang Mengmeng whispered to Li Chongqing, "Chongqing, run. You know Kung Fu. They won't be able to catch you." Regarding this, Li Chongqing only smiled and looked at Jiang Tao, who was constantly begging for mercy. Although Jiang Tao was a little timid, he was still loyal. As for Zhang Xiaofeng and Yang Fan, his eyes were filled with disappointment. They are just ordinary people after all. Kid, why don't you kneel down? Qin Xian couldn't help but frown when he saw Li Chongqing standing there, who was extremely eye-catching. At the same time, one of Qin Xian's subordinates walked up to Li Chongqing and was about to slap him. "Young Master Qin asked you to kneel down. Don't you King understand?" However, before his palm could land, Li Chongqing kicked him in the abdomen and sent him flying backward. In an instant, the surroundings were completely silent. Everyone looked at Li Chongqing in surprise. Even Qin Xian's eyes were filled with shock and uncertainty. His subordinates were all martial arts experts that he had hired with a high salary. However, they were sent flying by Li Chongqing with a kick. This guy's kung fu was not ordinary. Zhang Mingming's eyes were filled with joy. However, Jiang Tao's face became even uglier. Li Chongqing had hit Qin Hao's men. There was no room for reconciliation. "My friend, you have some skills," Qin Xian said with a fake smile. "You even dare to hit my subordinates. It seems that you don't give me face." Li Chongqing chuckled and walked up to Qin Xian. He reached out and patted his cheek. "Give you face? Who do you think you are?" Li Chongqing's action made everyone dumbfounded. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. This guy is crazy. How dare he talk to young Master Qin like that? He is courting death. Jiang Tao and the others were scared out of their wits. They knew that they were done for. Li Chongqing's action had undoubtedly enraged Qin Xian. The surroundings were suddenly plunged into silence. Even Zhang Mengmeng swallowed her saliva subconsciously. She felt her throat was dry. Audacious. This was the word that came to everyone's mind at the same time. Qin Xian's face was filled with uncertainty. He was also dumbfounded. At the same time, he was thinking about who this guy was. He dared to slap his own face. "What's your name?" Qin Xian looked at Li Chongqing with uncertainty. "My name is Li Chongqing. You can also call me by my nickname, Baba." "Dad," Qin Xian blurted out and then flew into a rage. "You King scolded me." Qin Xian was completely enraged by Li Chongqing. He directly raised his fist and punched at Li Chongqing. However, he regretted it after he waved his hand. This guy was quite skilled just now. Li Chongqing didn't give him a chance to back out. Before his ferocious punch could reach Li Chongqing kicked him in the abdomen. His whole body flew backward and smashed into the coffee table. The tempered glass coffee table was directly smashed and shattered into pieces. He also fell on top of the water glass. His body kept rolling around, and he screamed in pain. After more than 10 seconds, he struggled to get up. His forehead was covered in cold sweat because of the pain. However, he thought that he had more people on his side. He cursed, "Little B***, I'm going to kill you." Then, he saw his bodyguards and the foppish playboys with him all rushed at Li Chongqing. "You want to kill me with just you?" Li Chongqing kicked the first bodyguard in the face with a high whip kick. The bodyguard, who was 1.8 meters tall, fell to the ground with his head raised. At the same time, Li Chongqing rushed to Qin Xian, grabbed his head, and pressed it against the glass shards on the ground. "Ah!" There was a shrill scream. When Qin Xian's head was pulled up, his face was covered in blood. Everyone present was shocked by Li Chongqing's fierce moves. Zhang Mengmeng and the other girls widened their eyes. Their hearts were beating fast. At this time, 2 more bodyguards rushed up. Li Chongqing grabbed Qin Xian's ankle and swung him up. He used him as a weapon and swept the 2 bodyguards away. Qin Xian, who was screaming in pain, flew out when Li Chongqing let go and hit the pillar next to him. Bang! With a crisp sound, Qin Xian collapsed onto the ground along with the pillar. His head was bleeding profusely. Chapter 27. Ah! The girls screamed at the horrible scene in front of them. Everyone was dumbfounded. They had never seen such a brutal way of fighting. It was too cruel. Qin Xian was completely paralyzed there. His eyes were rolling and his body kept twitching. The rich second generation originally wanted to rush up and beat up Li Chongqing, but now they were trembling with fear. When Li Chongqing glanced at them, they immediately knelt on the ground in fear. Li Chongqing didn't even bother to look at them. He just looked at Jiang Tao, whose face was swollen, and smiled. He went over and helped him up. "You're good. You've been pleading for others from the beginning. You never thought of being alone." Hearing Li Chongqing's words, Jiang Tao sighed. "Lao Si, you're in trouble." As soon as his voice fell, they heard the sound of a mobile phone ringing. Everyone looked at the sound and saw that it was from Qin Xian. At this time, Qin Xian's face was covered with blood, but he had regained some consciousness. He took out his mobile phone with trembling hand. When he saw the name displayed on the screen, he was surprised and pressed the answer button. "Hello, brother, I was beaten. I'm at the nighttime bar. Are you nearby? That's great. Come and save me." "Yes, bring more people. That guy knows Kung Fu." Qin Xian's words fell into the ears of everyone present. Qin Xian's subordinates and the rich second generation were all happy. On the other hand, Jiang Tao's people showed fear on their faces. "Qin Xian's brother, isn't that Qin Yi? Qin Hao's son, the crown prince of Qingzhou. He's coming. I heard that Qin Yi was beaten some time ago. Qin Hao hired a boxing champion from abroad to be his bodyguard. Now that he's here, this young man is going to be unlucky." Many people around him looked at him with pity. In their opinion, no matter how good Li Chongqing was at fighting, his opponent was Qin Yi, Qin Hao's son, the crown prince of Qingzhou, with a boxing champion by his side. Maybe Li Chongqing could beat Qin Xian's bodyguards, but how could he be a match for the boxing champion? After hanging up the phone, Qin Xian was still in a miserable state, but his eyes were filled with pride. "My brother is coming. He will avenge me." Zhao Bingyu and the other rich second generation's eyes lit up. The haze in their hearts was swept away. Zhao Bingyu trotted over to Qin Xian and helped him up. Zhao Bingyu helped Qin Xian up. "How dare you hit me, Qin Xian? I'll definitely kill you," Qin Xian said through gritted teeth. His eyes were filled with resentment. Su Ying and the other girls smiled bitterly and shook their heads as they looked at Li Chongqing. "So what if you can fight? No matter how strong he is, he's just a brute. He can only lower his head in the face of power." This time, not only Jiang Tao, Su Ying, and the others, but even Zhang Mingming's expression became unsightly. "Chongqing, let's run before their men arrive." "Yes." Zhang Xiaofeng and the others also reacted. "Run? It's too late." Jiang Tao bitterly smiled and looked at the entrance of the bar. He saw 2 groups of people pouring in from the door. The leader of one group was Qin Yi, and the other group was led by the punks who were beaten by Li Chongqing. Qin Yi has already made people desperate, and with the help of the punks, it's undoubtedly worse. Jiang Tao muttered to himself, and his strength seemed to be drained. Su Ying and the other girls were trembling, like little sheep in front of a pack of wolves, full of powerlessness and fear. At the door of the bar, 2 groups of people appeared at the same time. One group was led by Qin Yi, the young master of the Qin family. Next to Qin Yi was a middle-aged man, dressed in black, giving people a sense of extreme danger. He was Qin Hao's right-hand man, known as Madman Su. Behind Madman Su, there was a black man with a strong body and explosive muscles, giving people a strong sense of oppression. Needless to say, he should be the bodyguard of the boxing champion that Qin Hao hired for his son from abroad at a high price. However, it was obvious that the black boxing champion was very respectful to Madman Su, because this proud boxing champion was very rude to Su Ke, the favorite of his boss, and was defeated by Su Ke with only one hand. The other group was surrounded by stars, and the one in the center was also a young man, and like Qin Yi, he was a student of Qingzhou University. Situ Nan, one of the 4 young masters of the school, the young master of the Simon group. His father, Situ Gang, was second only to Qin Hao in Qingzhou, and the two could be said to be enemies, because in Qingzhou, Situ Nan's father, Situ Gang, and Qin Yi's father, Qin Hao, had always been competitors. The two of them were in the same school since high school, and they had been fighting, and in college they were even more incompatible. So when the two groups met at the door of the bar, they were very unhappy with each other. "Yo, isn't this young Master Qin? I heard that you were beaten up some time ago and stayed in the hospital for a few days. Aren't you a black belt in Taekwondo? You're really a disgrace to our 4th young master, and I feel very embarrassed to be ranked as one of the 4th young masters of the school," Situ Nan said in a strange tone. Qin Yi's face suddenly became ugly. Indeed, being beaten up in Zhehuang Mountain and hospitalized was the shame of his life. "Situ Nan, don't think that I don't know that you were beaten up yesterday. You were kicked in the crotch, and your father specially found a specialist from a private hospital to accompany you to see if it was broken." As soon as he said this, not only did Qin Yi's people laugh, but even Situ Nan's underlings had strange expressions. If the incident at Zhehuang Mountain was Qin Yi's shame, then the incident where his balls were almost broken yesterday was Situ Nan's scar. "Situ Nan, do you think that because no one saw it at the scene, I don't know? You told the specialist from the private hospital not to tell anyone about your incident, but you didn't know that the specialist was our family's doctor, haha. I almost had my balls smashed all over the ground." As soon as Qin Yi's words fell, everyone in the bar heard it, and suddenly there was a burst of discussion. Situ Nan's face turned purple, and he wanted to strangle Qin Yi to death immediately, but he still loudly defended himself. The opponent was an expert in fighting. "He attacked me from behind, and I was injured because I couldn't defend myself. Otherwise, with my skills, how could I be injured so easily?" "Situ Nan, don't pretend. I heard that the opponent wasn't an expert in fighting, but just an ordinary student of Qingzhou University. He even attacked you from behind. You wanted to do something to the beauty of the fine arts department, Lu Yao, but in the end, you were beaten up. How embarrassing. You have the nerve to say that. I feel embarrassed for you." Situ Nan took a deep breath and said, "Qin Yi, don't talk nonsense. You're defaming me, be careful that I'll sue you." "Haha, what's wrong? You're angry because you're embarrassed. Do you want me to ask the doctor to make a video of you and post it on the school forum so that the whole school can see what kind of person the Situ family's son is?" Chapter 28. Situ Nan was beaten up by an ordinary student from Qingzhou University. Who was so bold? Who dared to beat up Situ Nan? The bar was not far from the university, so many of the customers were students from Qingzhou University. They all widened their eyes when they heard the news. The two groups of people rushed into the bar and started fighting as soon as they saw each other. It wasn't until they entered the bar that they remembered their business and temporarily stopped the dispute. "Brother, you're finally here." Qin Xian saw Qin Yi come in and limped over with the help of Zhao Bingyu. He covered his head with his hands. Qin Yi frowned when he saw the blood on his face. "How dare you beat up someone from the Qin family? You must be tired of living." Qin Yi was not a kind person. As Qin Hao's son and the real crown prince of Qingzhou, he had beaten up countless people since he was a child. Situ Nan shouted coldly, "Who dared to beat up my little brother? You must have eaten a leopard's guts." Looking at the two groups of people, Jiang Tao's face was full of despair. Whether it was Situ Nan or Qin Yi, he couldn't afford to offend either of them. Su Ying and the other girls looked at Li Chongqing with complicated expressions. All of this was caused by Li Chongqing. Indeed, Li Chongqing knew kung fu and was very good at fighting. He had his brave side, but what was the use? Two fists can't beat four hands. Even if he was good at fighting, would he dare to beat up Qin Yi? Would he dare to beat up Situ Nan? Even if they lost a hair, the power behind them could destroy ordinary people's families. Because of the dim light in the bar, the two sides didn't recognize Li Chongqing. Qin Yi's bodyguard, the middle-aged man, stood up and said coldly, "Who is the culprit? Come out." Su Ke is Qin Hao's right-hand man. I didn't expect him to be Qin Yi's bodyguard. It is said that he retired from the special forces and is proficient in ancient Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, and Karate. He once killed a boxing champion with one punch. No one in the entire Qingzhou is his opponent. Situ Nan said with a face full of fear. When he saw the cast on the middle-aged man's left hand, his face changed. It is said that the man who beat Qin Yi was so powerful that even Su Ke was no match for him. I thought it was just a rumor, but now it seems that the rumor is true. It seems that I'll have to keep a low profile in the future. This world is really full of hidden dragons and crouching tigers. If I can't, I'll ask my dad to hire a boxing champion as a bodyguard. However, if I encounter the expert who injured Su Ke, I'm afraid that boxing champion won't be of any help. Situ Nan silently calculated. At this moment, the surrounding onlookers were also discussing animatedly. Qin Yi is indeed the fourth young master of the school, the crown prince of Qingzhou. Look at how powerful his bodyguards are. Who would dare to provoke him? Qin Yi has always been overbearing. I'm afraid that the young man who hurt Qin Xian will be unlucky. I've heard that Su Ke's most amazing battle record was breaking 9 wooden planks with a single punch. Wouldn't that be enough to break a person's bones? He's too scary. We cannot afford to offend him. Who injured our young master Xian just now? Come out and accept your death. One of Qin Yi's lackeys shouted arrogantly. It's him. Zhao Bingyu pointed in the direction of Li Chongqing. At this moment, Zhang Mengmeng and the other girls' faces were instantly pale to the extreme. Su Ying shook her head and said, "It's over, it's really over this time. Li Chongqing, didn't you say that you would bear the responsibility alone? Tell them that it's all your own doing. It has nothing to do with us," Chen Wan suddenly said loudly. Her face was full of anxiety and fear. At the same time, she looked at Li Chongqing with a pleading face. "Chen Wan, how can you do this?" Zhang Mengmeng said loudly. Jiang Tao was also angry. "Chen Wan, if we had known earlier, we wouldn't have saved you. You're simply ungrateful." Chen Wan didn't answer. She just stared at Li Chongqing. "Say it. Didn't you say that you would bear the responsibility alone? If you're a man, you have to keep your word." In the bar, everyone looked in the direction of Li Chongqing. But because the bar was dimly lit, only a thin figure could be seen. Qin Yi frowned slightly. He felt that he had seen this figure somewhere before. Many people were whispering. They all thought that Li Chongqing was doomed to be unlucky today. "Young Master Situ, he's the one who injured us." The gangster with a bloody head saw Li Chongqing and stood up to Situ Nan. "Humph! You're really a bunch of trash. This guy is so thin, but he can beat you up like this. You're a disgrace to me." Situ Nan snorted coldly. He was kicked by Li Chongqing the other day. He was so focused on the pain that he didn't see what Li Chongqing looked like. At this moment, he was reprimanding his underlings with an unhappy face. On the other side, Qin Xian and the other foppish young masters glared at Li Chongqing with resentment. They were usually very impressive, but today they were beaten up. If news of this got out, they would lose all face in the future. A few of them clenched their beer bottles tightly. They were waiting for Su Ke to beat Li Chongqing up, and then they would go up and beat him up a few times. He doesn't look like anything special. He's not tall, and his body is so thin. Brother Xian, you can consider changing your bodyguards, Qin Yi said coldly. At this moment, a beam of light shone on Li Chongqing's face. Qin Yi's body suddenly trembled and stiffened. His eyes were filled with shock, as if he had seen a ghost. He remembered clearly what happened a few days ago at the Nine Emperors Mountain. It was his greatest humiliation, and he would never forget it. This face made him have nightmares for a few days. Originally, he wanted to seek revenge after he recovered, but he was stopped by his father. Qin Hao said that Su Ke had a close relationship with old Master Chu, so he couldn't offend him. Therefore, he could only suppress his hatred. But he didn't expect to see Li Chongqing again today. At this moment there was a buzzing sound in his head, and he didn't know what to do. The humiliation of being beaten, his father's warning, the hatred for Li Chongqing, and the fear that came from the bottom of his heart made him fall into a struggle. What should I do? What should I do? On the other side, Situ Nan also saw the face under the light. Why does it look so familiar? It's him. His eyes suddenly widened, revealing the light of hatred. At the same time, he subconsciously clamped his legs together. Give him a good beating. Beat that bastard to death. Qin Xian shouted, full of hatred. The surrounding people's hearts were in their throat. They knew that a good show was about to begin. This young man dared to offend the Qin family. They were afraid that if he didn't die, he would be crippled. Boy, this is the result of acting recklessly. Let's see if you can still be so arrogant. Zhao Bingyu also looked like a villain. He was trembling in fear just now, but now he felt like he was in charge. Li Chongqing only glanced at him coldly. For a lackey like this, he could crush him to death with one finger. What are you looking at? Zhao Bingyu shouted. Li Chongqing's glare made his hair stand. However, Li Chongqing ignored him and looked at Su Ke with a faint smile. Su Ke smiled wryly. After a few minutes, there was still no sign of a fight. Chapter 29. After 10 minutes, Su Ke just stood there like a statue and didn't make a move. Now, not only Qin Xian, who was waiting for Li Chongqing to be beaten up, but also the onlookers started to talk about it. What's going on? What's going on? Su Ke, do something. Why are you in a daze? Qin Xian couldn't help but shout. However, Su Ke didn't seem to hear him. He just stood there and stared at Li Chongqing with a wry smile. His expression was strange, as if he was afraid. But he was Su Ke, nicknamed Madman Su. Even the black boxing champion was respectful to him. Looking at the whole Qingzhou, except for his master Qin Hao, even Qin Yi, the young master, was respectful to him. Who could make him afraid? Many people were puzzled. Qin Xian and the other rich kids were even more puzzled. They found it unbelievable. Su Ke, do something. Qin Xian urged once more. Do something? Su Ke smiled wryly and looked at his left hand, which was still in a plaster cast. A few days ago, his left hand was almost destroyed. He still remembered what happened that day. Seeing that Su Ke didn't dare to do anything, Li Chongqing shook his head and said, Okay, apologize to me and leave with your young master. Hearing Li Chongqing's words, the onlookers didn't know how to react. What's going on? This is Su Ke, Madman Su. How dare he talk to crazy Su like that? Is there something wrong with this young man's brain? Just when everyone was puzzled, they saw Su Ke take the initiative to bow to Li Chongqing with his hands folded in front of his chest. I apologize to you on behalf of my master and Qin Xian. Hearing that, everyone was dumbfounded. No one could understand why Madman Su, who could call the wind and summon the rain in the Azure Province, would apologize to a young man. This was too inconceivable. Seeing that, Qin Xian couldn't believe it. Su-Ke, what do you mean? You are my uncle's subordinate. You are here to help me. How can you admit defeat? Not only Qin Xian, but Zhao Bingyu and the other rich heirs, including Jiang Tao and Su Ying, were also confused. They had no idea what was going on. Su-Ke didn't answer Qin Xian. He just silently retreated behind Qin Yi. Their attitude was very clear. They would not do anything to Li Changxing. Little brother, say something. Look at how badly your brother has been beaten up. You have to seek justice for me. Tell your Fist King and your subordinates to teach him a lesson. Pack up. Qin Yi looked at Li Changxing with a wonderful face. It's good enough that he doesn't teach me a lesson. How am I supposed to teach him a lesson? What? Qin Xian couldn't react in time. Little brother, what do you mean by that? You're the crown prince of Qingzhou. Aren't you just a kid who knows some martial arts? Isn't it as easy as squashing an ant? Qin Yi's words made Qin Xian a little confused for a moment. The Qin clan was tyrannical in the Qin province like a local tyrant. His younger brother had been a living devil since he was young. He was someone who dared to pierce through the heavens. Now, he was actually showing weakness in front of people of the same age. How was this possible? It was simply like a fantasy story. Little brother, tell me why. Your brother has been beaten up. How can I just let it go like this? Qin Xian was a little anxious. He had never been beaten up in his life. If he didn't vent his anger, he would have no face to see others in the future. You still want to take revenge on me? Li Changxing suddenly said. You asked Qin Yi if he dares? Does he dare? When the 3 words came out, everyone present was shocked. How bold was she to actually dare to say the words, "Do you dare," to the crown prince of Qing province? Qin Yi, if you don't want to lie in the hospital again, take your idiot brother and get out of the bar. At this time, everyone present was confused. Sidunan suddenly thought of something. It was rumored that Qin Yi was beaten up a few days ago and was in the hospital. Even Su-Ke, Qin Hao's most capable assistant, had his left hand broken because of protecting Qin Yi. Thinking of Su-Ke's performance just now, and then thinking of Qin Yi's appearance. Is that person the young man in front of me? Situ-Nan's heart suddenly jumped, and his face became ugly. At this time, Qin Xian also seemed to think of something, and his eyes showed fear. As Qin Yi's cousin and Qin Hao's nephew, he naturally knew the details of the matter better than others. For a moment, he fell into silence. All right, Mr. Li. You've injured members of my Qin family twice. I'll settle this score with you. Qin Yi took a deep breath, snorted coldly, and then turned and walked out of the bar. Qin Xian was supported by 2 of his subordinates and followed behind. Zhao Bingyu wanted to leave as well, but Li Changxing grabbed him by the collar and kicked him. Zhao Bingyu's body fell heavily to the ground. Mercy! Zhao Bingyu was so scared that he hurriedly knelt on the ground. He was really scared. Didn't he see that even the 2 brothers of the Qin family had admitted defeat? At best, he was a henchman beside Qin Xian. How dare he offend Li Changxing? Today, this bar damaged a lot of tables and chairs. The money is on you. You go to the bar manager and pay the money, and then you can get out. Hearing Li Changxing's words, Zhao Bingyu didn't dare to disobey. If Li Changxing didn't beat him, he would pray. As for the money, it was nothing for a rich second generation like him. Okay, I'll go. Zhao Bingyu hurriedly ran to the bar as if he had been pardoned. Meanwhile, Li Changxing turned his gaze to the punks who had been beaten up. What do you want to do? The leader of the punks was so scared that he stuttered. The fear that Li Changxing left in him was too deep, and there was already a psychological shadow. You guys took the initiative to cause trouble first. After being beaten up by me, you still dare to look for people. If I don't teach you a lesson, you don't know how many people you will harm. Li Chongqing snorted coldly and clenched his fist, making a cracking sound. The punks were so scared that they trembled. We are young Master Situ's people. Qin Yi is afraid of you, our young Master Situ is not afraid of you. The punks looked at his Master Situ Nan as if asking for help. Indeed, the Situ family was the only family in Qinzhou that dared to challenge the Qin family. Although they didn't know how Li Chongqing made Qin Yi leave with his tail between his legs, they firmly believed that their master, Situ Nan, would make the decision for them. Is that so? Li Chongqing looked at Situ Nan with a smile that wasn't a smile and said faintly, "Young Master Situ, we meet again. After I went back yesterday, I've been wondering if I went too easy on you. Sure enough, seeing how lively you are today, I feel that there's a need to do it again." Situ Nan's face instantly changed. He subconsciously squeezed his legs and stared at Li Chongqing. Although he wanted to take revenge for himself and beat up Li Chongqing, he looked at the lineup behind him. Even Su Ke wasn't Li Chongqing's opponent. If his subordinates went up, they would only be sending themselves to their deaths. Finally, he took a deep breath and suppressed the thought of revenge. He snorted coldly, "Li, let's wait and see." After that, he turned around and left with his subordinate. At this moment, everyone present was dumbfounded. This scene was simply too bizarre, too inconceivable. Qin Yi's departure was puzzling enough. Now even Situ Nan left. What was going on? At this moment, the scene fell into silence. Jiang Tao, Zhang Xiaofeng, Yang Fan, Su Ying, and Zhang Mengmeng all looked at Li Chongqing in disbelief. Their hearts were full of questions. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.